Chapter 657. One of the 100 elites of God's organization shot out a white light from his bone sword. It was so fast that no one could dodge. Yi Qinghan was exhausted. Killing Junzi Ke didn't require much energy, but in order to fight against Duanmu Chun, he had nearly exhausted all of his physical strength. With the divine primal chaos source in his saber, he couldn't draw any energy from it. At this moment, if it was an ordinary God's organization, Yi Qinghan might have a chance to fight back. But against one of the top 10 on the ranking list, he had no chance. It's Enai, the 9th on the ranking list. Look at him, he's always putting on airs, but he actually did something so despicable. Everyone was angry, but they didn't dare to interfere. Yi Qinghan raised his arm to stop Enai's attack, but he was too slow. He was too tired. 1. Just as Enai made his move, Ren Huangyi also made his move. He held the guqin in one hand, and his right hand almost broke the strings of the guqin. The sound of the guqin was violent and mighty. It directly crashed into Enai's consciousness. Enai felt a sudden explosion in his mind. He felt dizzy and almost fell down. His sword stabbed towards Yi Qinghan, but it couldn't pierce any further. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Xian Yanxue and Gu Qingyu pulled out their swords at the same time, one on the left and one on the right, and stabbed towards Enai. Enai roared and used the last of his strength to stab Yi Qinghan's shoulder. If Yi Qinghan didn't move his body slightly, the sword would have pierced his heart. Puchi, Enai was like a madman. He didn't care about his life. He was confident that as long as he killed Yi Qinghan, Yuanli would definitely save him. So he ignored Gu Qingyu and Xian Yanxue's attacks and wanted to cut Yi Qinghan's body. But he underestimated Yi Qinghan's willpower. He saw Yi Qinghan grab the bone sword and clamp down on the sharp sword. After struggling for a moment, Gu Qingyu and Xian Yanxue each wielded a sword, one piercing through Enai's throat, the other piercing through his sword-wielding hand, knocking down his bone sword. The figure of the man with different pupils flashed, so fast that there was no trace of him. He directly dragged Yi Qinghan back to where the people of the Kuang sect were standing, as if he had never moved. Yi Qinghan was in so much pain that the corners of his mouth twitched. He pulled out the bone sword and golden battle blood spurted out. The man with other pupils sealed several of his major acupoints to seal the wound. Is this the so-called God organization's arena? Emperor Yi stood up and asked angrily. Yuanli did not expect Enai to suddenly attack. Not only did he fail, but he had also put God's organization in an awkward position. Yuanli's expression turned ugly. However, Yi Qinghan had suffered a series of heavy blows. As long as he could kill Yang Ru and Xian Yanxue, today's matter would be settled. Therefore, Yuanli made up his mind and decisively gave up on Enai. He said in a deep voice, "This matter has nothing to do with God's organization." He acted on his own. Moreover, Yi Qinghan did not say that he would stop fighting. Enai's attack is understandable. But you guys, 3 people at once, broke the rules. Since you guys are so shameless, we have no choice but to make things clear in advance. After a battle on the arena, you must ask the defender if he wants to continue. We have fewer people and you have more people. How many of us can kill a sneak attack like this? Emperor Yi said in dissatisfaction. This old man has to stand up and say something. Although God's organization is powerful, they can't hide the truth with one hand. Enai's actions today were too excessive, causing Yi Qinghan to be seriously injured. I suggest that he rest for half a month before continuing the battle. Long Shan said with dissatisfaction. This was clearly bullying them by relying on their numbers. No. Our side has lost 2 people in a row. How can we let Yi Qinghan recover his strength like this? If he could rest for half a month after killing 2 people, he would be the only one fighting in this arena. Why do we need 100 people? Yuanli said coldly. Moreover, today's matter has nothing to do with the Holy Dragon Divine Kingdom. Those who have nothing to do with it, please shut up. Although everyone was angry, they were helpless. God's organization was powerful, so they could only listen to what they said. Yuanli looked at the crazy Taoist and signaled him to attack. Kill Yang Ru and Xian Yanxue first. Then the insane sect would have no hope. Although the crazy Taoist was dissatisfied with God's organization's actions, he was ordered to kill. This was Xian Yuantian's order, so he attacked. Dong dong dong. The crazy Taoist's murderous aura leaked out, causing the hearts of the heroes to beat rapidly. His murderous aura was too strong. As expected of the Grim Reaper. The weapon in his hand was also very strange. It looked like a sickle, but there were some differences. It was shaped like a crescent moon, sharp and white, with a hint of blood red. No one knew how many people he had killed to dye his weapon red. Everyone knew that he was very strong. He could kill a powerhouse on the wind cloud list with a slap. He was definitely a terrifying existence. The chief disciple of Sky Mountain only had time to draw his sword halfway. Was there a second person in the insane sect who was comparable to Yi Qinghan? If they had Yi Qinghan's combat power, they might be able to defeat the Grim Reaper. However, even with Yi Qinghan's combat power, they would at most be able to fight to a draw. This guy had been fighting in the dimensional battlefield for many years. The opponents he faced were not comparable to the younger generation. Even the first and second on the elite list were no match for him. Otherwise, Junkei and Duanmu Chun would have gone to the dimensional battlefield to gain experience. There were not many people in the insane sect who could fight against the crazy Taoist. Even Yang Ru could not. Only Xian Yanxue and Yi Lingxian might have a chance, but the danger was greater. They might die in battle. If the person with different pupils attacked, she might expose her true form, which might cause unnecessary trouble. The two of them looked at each other and were about to attack. However, Emperor Yi shook his head. He did not want to drag them down because of the insane sect, so he chose to attack personally. Wow, the crowd was speechless. No one had expected Ren Huangyi to take the initiative to attack. Ren Huangyi had many titles, and she was indeed very famous. The #1 beauty, the #1 treasure appraiser, and the #1 great master of the Guqin. What a pity! She is so young and talented. Why did she meet the Grim Reaper? Everyone shook their heads in pity. The crazy Taoist frowned. He looked at Emperor Yi and said coldly, "Get lost. I do not fight with women." Emperor Yi was 200 meters away from the crazy Taoist. She sat cross-legged on the ground. The Emperor's zither floated in the air. She gently plucked a few strings and pressed her hands on the strings. In a crisp voice, she said, "Cultivators are so pedantic. No matter what, I will fight this battle. If you defeat me, there will be stronger cultivators to fight." Hum hum hum. Ren Huangyi played the unfettered sigh. It did not have any offensive power, but it allowed the crowd to wander through the endless mountains and rivers. They were happy and carefree. An illusion appeared out of thin air, causing everyone in the surroundings to fall into a perfect dream without any symptoms. The crazy Taoist was also a person who liked to be free. Before he could attack, he was attracted by the music. In addition, Emperor Yi, who looked like a harmless little girl, actually listened quietly to the music and gradually fell into a dream. Chapter 658. The Carefree Zither was one of the best music in the world. Listening to this song would make one's life worth living. Now, even the god of gamblers and the old man were listening to it quietly, let alone the crazy Taoist. Emperor Yi played the Carefree Tan quietly. He had no intention of attacking. Gradually, the world became quiet, which attracted the attention of birds and mythical beasts. The crazy Taoist was gradually lost in the carefree world, and his murderous intent disappeared. The mythical bird saw an opportunity and pulled out the colorful snake. It used some strange method to break the contract between Yi Qinghan and the snake without Yi Qinghan's permission. "Go and take the young master as your master and kill the crazy Taoist." the mythical bird whispered. Everyone was shocked. Yi Qinghan had no divine power. How did the mythical bird break the contract? Yi Qinghan's eyebrows twitched. The mythical bird broke the contract without any sign. No one in the mythical plane could know this strange method. The colorful snake looked at Yi Qinghan and nodded. It slithered to Emperor Yi, opened its fangs, and bit down on Emperor Ye's wrist. Emperor Yi ignored it and let it bite his wrist and suck a drop of blood. The contract was signed. The colorful snake rushed to the crazy Taoist as fast as lightning. The crazy Taoist was indeed powerful. Even though he was deep in the illusion and was awakened by the colorful snake's aura, the snake wrapped around the crazy Taoist like sticky candy. It turned into a dragon and evolved the sky dragon, binding eagle hands to the extreme. It was more proficient than Yi Qinghan in this way. The crazy Taoist was shocked. He kept slapping the colorful snake, trying to kill it. However, he hit himself hard every time. The colorful snake was caught in his clothes. Everyone saw the crazy Taoist dancing. He was so angry that he wanted to kill the colorful snake with one slap. Hum, 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 Emperor Ye's music suddenly changed. The murderous intent filled the air and turned into sharp blades that tore through the void, shooting toward the crazy Taoist. The crazy Taoist was distracted by the colorful snake and couldn't guard against Emperor Ye's sonic blades. His ragged clothes were cut open, and the invincible sonic blades took away his flesh. The crazy Taoist was furious. His chi burst forth as he struck Ren Huangyi with one palm and grabbed the colorful snake with the other. However, the colorful snake would occasionally burrow into his back. Whenever it had the chance, it would bare its fangs. The crazy Taoist had no choice but to focus on dealing with it. Ren Huangyi soared into the sky and transformed into a guqin. The sound of the guqin rose abruptly and transformed into the most terrifying soul attack. The rhythm crashed into the crazy Taoist's consciousness. Ren Huangyi pressed down on the strings of the guqin, and the sound of the guqin exploded in his consciousness. Bang! Puff! The crazy Taoist trembled and almost fell to the ground. His soul was hurt and his face was pale. Emperor Ye's attack was invisible. As long as the crazy Taoist could hear it with his ears and sense it with his spiritual mind, he would be attacked. However, facing a master like Emperor Yi, the crazy Taoist could only use his eyes. That would be very passive. Emperor Ye's fingers were extremely fast. He kept plucking the strings. The music was so powerful that no one knew which part of the music carried the soul attack. It was impossible to defend against it. The crazy Taoist was mad. He threw the strange sickle in his hand toward Emperor Yi. It had a tracking skill. No matter how Emperor Yi escaped, the sickle would follow closely behind Emperor Yi. Emperor Yi held the zither with one hand and shook the bracelet with his right hand. The crisp sound of the bell went into the crazy Taoist's mind. The sound became sharp and harsh. The crazy Taoist's face was distorted and his soul seemed to be struck by lightning. The crazy Taoist screamed and covered his head with his hand. Before he could defend himself, the colorful snake on his back opened its fangs and tore off a piece of his flesh. He angrily poured all his power from his back and broke one of the snake's fangs. However, the colorful snake suddenly rushed to his chest. Whoosh! The divine bird suddenly ran into the battlefield and spat out a mouthful of fire from a distance. The fire was not very strong, but it could at least interfere with the battle. However, the divine bird was too weak. It was hit by the crazy Taoist's palm and fell far away with a scream. "How dare you hit this divine bird? Brothers, let's fight!" Roar! Whoosh! Whoosh! 7 or 8 figures rushed out from behind the people of the crazy sect. They were all divine beasts, including the black tortoise, the fire phoenix, the squirrel, and the octopus. All of them were extraordinary and had their own special abilities. The squirrel could travel through space, and the octopus could spit out black smoke. Its poisonous gas was strong enough to kill a master at the peak of the medium level. The black tortoise's defense was frighteningly strong, and it rushed toward the crazy Taoist without any scruples. The beautiful bird that looked like the divine bird also did the same. How dare you break the rules? Don't blame me for being rude. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Get lost, you bastard. I'm Master's spiritual pet, and they're all my little brothers. They just have to listen to me. Are you envious? Are you jealous? Kneel down and kowtow to me, and I'll take you as my follower. The divine bird said arrogantly. Whoosh. Everyone burst into laughter. The crazy Taoist was indeed powerful, but he was outnumbered. In addition, these weird mythical beasts had great speed and defense. The Fire Phoenix's attack power was no less than that of the people on the Fengyan list. These divine beasts kept the crazy Taoist busy. Renhuang Yi rolled backward and dodged the attack of the death scythe. His 10 fingers plucked the strings of the guqin, and he abruptly attacked the scythe. His spiritual energy severed the connection between the scythe and the crazy Taoist, and he forcefully suppressed the spiritual consciousness of the crazy Taoist inside the scythe. Whoosh! The crazy Taoist's soul was severely injured again, and he almost fell to the ground. Emperor Yi put away the crescent scythe and focused on the crazy Taoist. The crazy Taoist suddenly felt more pressure. When dealing with this mythical creature, the other mythical creatures would take the opportunity to attack him. The black tortoise was not afraid of being hit. He punched the tortoise's shell. The black tortoise was just knocked away, but nothing happened. The crazy Taoist's fist was red and trembled in pain. I admit defeat. Tell them to go away. The crazy Taoist was furious. There was no way he could fight. Yi Qinghan could not deal with so many beasts at the same time. Moreover, the divine bird would occasionally rush to his ear to provoke him. In short, whatever it said could drive him to death. TSK, you are so angry even when you admit defeat. I like it. The divine bird was extremely arrogant. It approached the crazy Taoist again, and spat out a mouthful of fire. The crazy Taoist's hair was set on fire and his face was burned black. He had become a real lunatic. I am just a helper. I won't interfere in your business. Let me go. The crazy Taoist was so angry that he slapped his left rib. He was hurting himself, but he had no choice. The colorful snake was still entangling him. Yuan Li's face was livid. He knew that once the god of death was defeated, no one in the god's organization could withstand the attack of so many mythical creatures. Emperor Yi could kill everyone in this round, and the other members of the eccentric faction would not need to do anything. Was the god's organization defeated like this? Was it a complete loss? But would the god's organization allow itself to be defeated? Not to mention the fact that they had to pay the old man 1 million top-grade divine gems, which would make the god's organization and the College of Divinity bankrupt. Chapter 659. Yi Qinghan nodded in agreement. The crazy Taoist left the battlefield, and all the mythological beasts retreated. He stood beside Emperor Yi, looking valiant like a victorious king. The crazy Taoist had come with a monstrous aura, but he left dejectedly. Before he left, his eyes were filled with resentment. He was so depressed that he couldn't express his grievances. He even begged Emperor Yi to return the weapon to him. Emperor Yi wasn't someone easy to deal with. You want to take the divine weapon away? Simple, give him 50 top-grade god crystals and return the divine weapon with both hands. The crazy Taoist didn't have that many top-grade god crystals, so he could only look at Yuan Li. Yuan Li had no choice but to accept this. The Grim Reaper he invited didn't kill a single person, and he had to pay a few hundred top-grade god crystals. As for the deposit, there was no way he could get it back. He might even have to pay the rest. Yuan Li took out 50 top-grade god crystals and redeemed the crescent scythe. Then, the crazy Taoist turned and left. Now, the people of God's organization were even more depressed. How were they supposed to fight Emperor Yi? Even the Grim Reaper had been defeated. If they wanted to beat Emperor Yi, They would have to win against so many mythological beasts. It wouldn't be easy to beat them all. A cold glint flashed across Yuan Li's eyes. He knew that if he wanted to win now, he would need a powerful beast tamer with dozens of divine beasts to defeat Ren Huangyi. However, he had never brought a beast tamer with him to participate in the battle. Let's call a truce. Yuan Li flicked his sleeves and led the people of God's organization to set up camp 100 kilometers away. The pressure in his heart suddenly increased. He thought that 3 rounds would be enough to beat the crazed manor to a pulp, but now the other side had sent out 2 people, and his side had lost 3 rounds. The key was that no one could beat Emperor Yi. With so many mythological beasts helping him, unless the top 3 of the Wind Cloud leaderboard returned from the planar battlefield, there was no chance of winning. Yi Qinghan took back Berserk and seized 2 divine swords, War Abyss and Scarlet Rainbow. He gave one to the man with other pupils and the other to Xiaqiu. Gu Qingyu's sword had already become one with him. There was no weapon as sharp as his own. What he needed now was not a new sword, but rather, he needed Yi Qinghan to help him level up. After obtaining 2 powerful godhoods, Yi Qinghan sent them into an alternate dimension. Whoever in the inner sect could refine them would get to keep them. It was very fair. If this continued, the insane sect would only become stronger and stronger, and they would not lose anyone. Yi Qinghan had been in there for less than half a day, which was equivalent to half a year. Very quickly, he had recovered from his injuries. Once he came out of seclusion, he would be able to fight. God Worryless and the other 2 superior gods of God's organization arrived outside the southern mountain pass and looked at the helpless Yuan Li with anger in their eyes. The mighty God organization can't even take down a puny insane manor? Do you need this old man to do it personally and let the world laugh at me? God Worryless angrily rebuked. Yuan Li knelt on the ground, not daring to refute. He didn't even dare to say that Jun Zeke and Duanmu Chun had been defeated. Otherwise, these 3 old men would be even angrier. However, there was no concealing the truth. Duanmu Chun and Junzi Ke were no ordinary people. How could the news of their deaths be kept a secret? The 3 of them quickly found out that Yi Qinghan had single-handedly killed their 2 strongest experts. They immediately roared and sent Yuan Li flying tens of meters with a slap. Trash. All of you are good-for-nothings. The organization has raised you for so many years, yet you came out to throw away your lives at the crucial moment? It has only been 2 hours since the start of the competition, and the reinforcements we invited have been defeated. The organization has also lost 3 experts. Didn't you say that you had investigated the strength of the experts of the insane sect? Is this your so-called investigation? God Worryless coldly looked at Yuan Li. His gaze could kill. This. Yuan Li knelt on the ground. He didn't know how to explain. Yi Qinghan had become stronger because of the dragon blood, but he didn't expect Yi Qinghan to refine the dragon blood so quickly. He could even transform into a dragon and cultivate the 5 elements dragon fist. As for Emperor Yi, it was purely the dirty bird's doing. Otherwise, how could he have forced the crazy Taoist to leave? Yuan Li's idea was good, but he neglected the fact that the insane sect was now in a different dimension. 1 day in the outside world was 1 year in the insane sect. Of course, other than Yi Qinghan and the other inner sect members, only these people who had a grudge against God's organization could enter the different dimension. They wouldn't betray Yi Qinghan, so they definitely wouldn't be able to find out about this. 3 elders, the strength of the insane sect is not inconsistent with the investigation. The only difference is Yi Qinghan. He refined the dragon blood. I didn't expect him to refine it so quickly. As for Emperor Yi, as long as there is a powerful beast tamer, he can defeat him. Yuan Li vowed. Are you sure? God Worryless Qianquan coldly asked. I'm sure. Ren Huangye's combat strength isn't that great. It's only because that B*TCH bird brought so many divine beasts into the battle that the crazy Taoist had no choice but to admit defeat. As long as a large number of divine beasts suppress those divine beasts, Ren Huangyi alone won't be able to overturn the situation, Yuan Li said respectfully. Jun Zeke and Duanmu Chun are dead, and the crazy Taoist has left. Who will fight Xian Yanxue, Yang Ru, and Yi Lingxian? These three are all in the top 5 of the ranking list. Zhongtian High God frowned. God's organization couldn't afford to lose now, not only because of their reputation, but also because of the compensation. That 1 million would crush God's organization and Tian-Ke Theological College. At this moment, the dean of Tian-Ke Theological College, Qing Zhengshan, personally brought a 13-rank beast tamer to God's organization's camp. A 13-rank beast tamer. He alone could control more than 10 13-rank divine beasts, and he did indeed control more than 10 13-rank divine beasts. Every one of them was incomparably powerful, and they could easily kill a medium god priest. This person was the head disciple of Tian-Ke Theological College's Beast Tamer Department. His name was Beast Tamer King, and he was qualified to stay in the school. He shouldn't have participated in the battle, but Tian-Ke Theological College didn't want to lose and had to send him. Are there any other super-existences in the mythical realm other than the wind and cloud 3 heavens? If there's no other choice, I'll go find Pan Gu Heaven myself. I don't believe he won't give me face. Qing Zhengshan indifferently said. There is one, but he seems to be just over 3,000 years old. He can't be considered part of the younger generation. Yuan Li helplessly said. Are you talking about the king of killers, Li Feng? God worryless Qianquan frowned. That's him. He once single-handedly killed 3 divine colleges and the royal family. No one dared to make a move against him. He killed all the top 20 on the ranking list and elite list in 10 days. People called him the king of killers. If it wasn't for the protection of a high-level god, he would have angered everyone and been killed. Yuan Li explained. Age isn't a problem. He's just over 3,000 years old. Where is he? Since he likes to kill, I'll capture him and kill him for me. God worryless Qianquan coldly said. Elder, he's training in the mountain range heaven. Yuan Li respectfully said. Before Yuan Li could finish, God worryless Qianquan rushed to the end of the void. Chapter 660. It was only a day, but that was more than enough time for God's organization to find powerful reinforcements. Li Feng had once killed so many people that no one dared to make a sound. Apart from the older generation, he was invincible. No one dared to challenge him. He was even more terrifying than laughing at the heavens. Such an existence shouldn't interfere with the younger generation. However, High God Qianquan personally invited him, so who wouldn't give face? The old man didn't seem to know who Li Feng was, but God of Gamblers had been in the mythological plane for a long time, so he naturally knew what Li Feng was. He couldn't help but raise an eyebrow. These 3 old things want to go back on their word and eat my winnings? What's wrong? Is Li Feng very powerful? The old man asked indifferently. He's more than powerful. Don't you know his name? He's the one who has the highest chance of becoming a high god in the mythological plane. Old thing, are you not a high god in the mythological plane? God of Gamblers looked at the old man curiously. Even a blind man could tell that this old man was no ordinary person. Who would be so generous as to throw out 10,000 top-grade god crystals in one go? Little thing, there are some things you shouldn't ask. Tell me, who is this so-called Li Feng? The old man's interest was piqued. He's not an existence. He's the most terrifying existence in the younger generation. He single-handedly killed everyone in the mythological plane, and no one in the same generation dared to speak up. With his cultivation level, do you think the crazy manor can deal with him? Even the top 3 on the leaderboard would have to respectfully call him Lord. The god of gamblers said calmly. His understanding of the great path has reached the peak, and he has condensed 4 godhoods, all of which are close to the level of a superior god. Once all of them break through, it will be difficult for an old man like me to deal with him. God's organization wants to bully me. Bully the crazy manner? The old man was very calm. He took a sip of the drunken god wine and muttered, "This guy's wine is really good. I'm curious. Crazy Manor has nothing, so why would they dare to compete with God's organization? Could it be that you're the one behind them?" God of Gamblers couldn't see through the old man, but he knew he was no match for him. "This has nothing to do with you. Don't lose again. Otherwise, you won't have much money left," the old man lazily replied. The God of Gamblers rolled his eyes. He was a dignified superior god, but he had turned into a gambler and traveled the mortal world, yet he still met an old man who was even older than him. It was as if he was teaching a junior, and he did not have the courage to refute. He sighed in his heart. Outside the southern mountains pass, no one left. Yi Qinghan's first 2 battles had made everyone's blood boil. Although Ren Huangyi had used a small trick to defeat Grim Reaper, it was not a big deal. At this moment, 2 of God's organization's top 3 experts had died and 1 had retreated. However, the real show had just begun. God's organization was so powerful, so wouldn't it be easy for them to find a few foreign reinforcements? It would be very difficult for Crazy Manor to win. However, if Yi Qinghan could recover in a day, they still had a chance. After all, Yi Qinghan had replaced Duanmu Chun as the #1 expert on the elite leaderboard. Nobody knew that God's organization had gone to find Li Feng. Otherwise, they wouldn't be so optimistic. Crazy Manor didn't know that God's organization had gone to find Li Feng. They didn't even know who Li Feng was. But these outsiders knew. Yi Qinghan sent the inner sect and Xian Yanshue's group into another space. However, he didn't send Yi Lingxian and the others to cultivate. These people were found by Long Shan, and their backgrounds were still to be investigated. So, he personally led them to the South Mountain Manor. After exchanging greetings, he learned that of these 13 people, other than Yi Lingxian, Ling Xiaoyu, and Miao Miao, they were all top geniuses of their respective manors. Wang Chun, however, was a talent specially trained by the Divine Nation. He was known as the Medicine King. Miao Miao came from a great clan in the southern wasteland. She was a powerful expert of a foreign race. She cultivated the poison cup art and the soul curse art, which allowed her to kill people without them noticing. Even if a powerful expert was poisoned by the poison cup art, the way he died would be very strange. This kind of person was the hardest to guard against. Most importantly, she was a peerless beauty, capable and cute girl. Her clothes were not too revealing, but her slender legs and slender arms were exposed. Ling Xiaoyu came from the Ling clan. His clan was more powerful than the average mansions. If Long Shan hadn't come personally, he wouldn't have been able to participate in this battle. Yi Lingxian was the strongest among the 13. The sky piercer in his hand could almost manipulate the laws of heaven and earth. With the addition of these 13 people, Yi Qinghan felt a little more confident. The insane sect still didn't have enough experts. However, with the addition of 2 top-grade godheads, the insane sect could add 2 more experts. Yi Qinghan cupped his fists and said, "On behalf of the insane sect, I thank you for your help. Today's kindness will be returned tenfold in the future. Brother Yi is too polite. The 2 battles just now made my blood boil. Ha ha ha." Ling Xiaoyu's eyes were filled with admiration. He felt that this trip was worth it. That's right. Brother Yi is too polite. I think that if God's organization can't find strong reinforcements, they will definitely lose this time. Perhaps we won't even need to do anything. The insane sect will be able to sweep them all away, Yi Lingxian said. Everyone nodded in agreement. God's organization's 2 strongest experts, Duanmu Chun and Junzi Ke, had died in battle. Meanwhile, their strongest reinforcements had been forced to retreat. None of the other members of God's organization were a match for Yi Qinghan. As long as Xian Yanxue Yang Ru, Gu Qingyu, Nie Tian, and Emperor Yi worked together and took turns fighting them, the insane sect would definitely be able to secure victory. I don't know much about the mythological plane, but I know that God's organization won't give up just like that. They still have 100 people left, and they can fight all of our top-grade experts. I alone can't fight more than 50 experts. If they manage to snatch another super existence, I will need everyone's help, Yi Qinghan said. Everyone cupped their fists, indicating that they were willing to help. In the evening, just as Yi Qinghan was hosting a banquet for everyone, a commotion broke out outside the Southern Mountains city. The entire Southern Mountains city army fell into chaos as though they had been frightened. Yi Qinghan stepped onto the city wall and stared at a young man reeking of blood beside High God Qianquan. He discovered that this young man was like a reincarnation cycle that interweaved in the chaos. Just a glance at him would shatter one's Tao heart. That young man stood in place, and no one dared to stand within 1,000 meters of him. Even the experts at the level of mansion masters retreated far away. It's Li Feng. That king of killers, Li Feng. A trembling voice broke the silence of the evening. The Southern Mountain City army fell into silence after the chaos. Yi Qinghan's eyes flickered. He knew that this person was very strong, but he didn't know his background. At this moment, Yi Ling Xian and the others appeared on the city wall. Their pupils constricted, and their fingertips trembled. They were extremely nervous. Is he still part of the younger generation? Wang Chen asked with a frown. Chapter 661. Wang Chen was somewhat puzzled. Li Feng was a myth, a legend even older than laughing at the heavens. No one knew his exact age, but logically speaking, someone of his cultivation shouldn't be considered a member of the younger generation, nor should he be involved in this matter. Yang Xian, who stood beside Wang Chen, was a know-it-all. He knew everything about the mythological plane. He knew that Li Feng was just over 3,000 years old and couldn't be considered a member of the younger generation. Yang Xian solemnly reminded Yi Shiwen. He is over 3,000 years old. He is a character from the same generation as my second uncle. Although he is a bit younger than my second uncle, he is indeed over 3,000 years old. He should be around 3,000 years old. Brother Yi, you can raise your objections, but I don't believe that God's organization would be so shameless as to act so arrogantly in front of everyone. Fuck. Li Feng is here, so what's the point of fighting? Why doesn't God's organization have a higher God priest personally take action? Yi Qinghan frowned. Although he knew that Li Feng was powerful, he didn't know his origins or the extent of his strength. He's a myth. A medium God priest myth, the strongest expert below higher gods. He's known as the King of Killers. More than 1,000 years ago, he single-handedly killed so many people that no one dared to fight for second place. No matter how strong they were, they had to lower their heads. Even the princes of divine kingdoms, the young experts of God's organization, and the sons of overlords didn't dare to contend with him. Yang Xian explained to Li Feng with narrowed eyes. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath. Since God Qinghan dared to seek out Li Feng, it meant that he was confident that Li Feng's age wouldn't be a problem. Speaking of it now would only embarrass him. Forget it. We'll talk about it tomorrow. Yi Qinghan felt helpless. This Li Feng was ridiculously strong. They weren't even from the same generation. Even if he used his trump cards, the 10 Directions seal, and the Primal Chaos Divinity Source, he still might not be able to take a single blow. If he couldn't take a single blow from Li Feng, then even with an endless supply of divine energy, Yi Qinghan could only sigh. That night, Yi Qinghan entered a different dimension and painstakingly practiced the dragon transformation style. There were a total of 9 styles, and there were also 9 levels to his mental cultivation method. Once he reached the 4th level, he would be worshipped by a superior god. Unless he could cultivate the dragon transformation skill to the 4th level within a year, and the dragon transformation style to the 4th level, he would be able to suppress his opponent. If he wanted to resist his opponent, he would have to cultivate to the 3rd level at the very least, and it would be at the pinnacle of the realm. However, cultivating the dragon transformation skill was not that simple. Even a real dragon would need a few hundred years to cultivate one tier. Compared to Yi Qinghan, he only had a dragon bloodline. First stage, Dragon Realm; second stage, Dragon Realm; third stage, Flying Dragon Realm; fourth stage, Heavenly Dragon Realm. Yi Qinghan occupied himself in the different dimension, and runes appeared in his mind. They were written in the Dragon Clan's language, but he could easily recognize them. He could recognize the runes, but they were difficult to understand. They even had corrosive attacks, burning one's soul and mental energy, causing Yi Qinghan to frown in pain. Dragon Realm, one could use the Dragon Clan's secret technique, Dragon Transformation Claw, which was equivalent to a lesser god. Dragon Realm, one could use the Dragon Clan's secret technique, Dragon Roaming the Azure Sea, which was equivalent to a prefecture master. Once one entered the Flying Dragon Realm, one would be at the peak of the realm below a superior god. They would be invincible, on the same level as Li Feng and laughing at the heavens. Although Yi Qinghan had already transformed into a dragon, if he wanted to cultivate the Dragon Transformation Claw, he would need at least a few years to complete it. If he wanted to cultivate to the Flying Dragon Realm and use the Flying Dragon Clan's secret technique, he would need at least 100 years to complete it. No matter how strong Yi Qinghan's talent was, he wouldn't be able to do it. If I want to contend against Li Feng in a short period of time, I can only cultivate the 10 directions returned to 1. Yi Qinghan lowered his head and pondered. He flipped through the 10 directions returned to 1 technique. This was only a 5th grade secret technique, and couldn't be considered a main secret technique. On the other hand, the Dragon Transformation style was a 5th grade divine technique. The difference between the two was not small. 1 year should be enough for him to use the 10 directions seal as smoothly as moving clouds and flowing water. 10 directions return to 1. First, I have to comprehend the law of space to the Great Perfection Realm and control the space of 10 directions. Yi Qinghan had already cultivated the 5 elements to the Great Perfection Realm. Mastering one technique, mastering all technique. In addition, this was a different space where the law of space was exceptionally clear. Yi Qinghan released his divine sense and his mental strength wandered through the space. The patterns were clear, making it easier for him to comprehend the law of space. While Yi Qinghan was comprehending the law of space, the 7th Godhead was gradually condensing. At this moment, the power of faith in Yi Qinghan's sea of consciousness had multiplied by several times. Because of this battle, Yi Qinghan had become the faith of countless living beings in the crazed manner. Many people regarded him as their spiritual pillar. The power of faith was so pure and dense that there were at least hundreds of thousands of them in the entire crazed manor territory. With so many of them supporting him, the Godhead condensed was actually so perfect. Time passed little by little, but the outside world was so quiet that it made one's hair stand on end. Many manor lords didn't leave. They were waiting for the crazed manor to bloom like fireworks, only to be crippled by Li Feng. Perhaps some were also waiting for Yi Qinghan to break Li Feng's undefeated legend. Yi Qinghan was racing against time to cultivate, and so were the others. Many people from the inner sect had also entered the realm of myriad beasts to train. The divine bird led its little brothers to sweep through everything. When they saw a powerful variant divine beast, they would trick and swindle it. If the other party didn't listen, they would swarm it and beat it until it had no choice but to submit. In half a year in the different space, the divine bird had gathered more than 30 variant divine beasts. A dozen of them were comparable to manor lords. At this moment, the divine bird stood valiantly on the back of a vigorous lion. The lion's body was covered in white fur, and it looked majestic. It was definitely a gifted beast. With the crazed manor's support, how could God's organization place all their bets on Li Feng? The 4 higher god priests had gathered 100 divine beasts for the Beast King. There were even some ancient vicious beasts. This time, they clearly wanted to take Emperor Ye's life. The night passed quickly. God's organization had transferred another expert from the planar battlefield. His combat power was comparable to Xian Yanshue's, and he was a veteran of hundreds of battles. In the planar battlefield, he was known as the War King. The sky gradually brightened, and everyone woke up from their meditation. Everyone from the crazed manor stepped out of the southern mountains pass. Even though they knew Li Feng was here, they were determined to fight. Whether they won or lost, they had to at least dare to fight. Yi Qinghan looked down at the enemy's camp and locked his gaze on Li Feng. He no longer held the berserker in his hands. Instead, he held the primal chaos source and the 10-direction seal. Li Feng was also looking at Yi Qinghan. He was as cold as a block of cold steel, without the slightest hint of emotion or emotion. It was as if he was really just a killing machine. The crowd began to discuss among themselves. Most people's gazes were on Li Feng. Although they were dissatisfied, no one dared to raise any objections. It was none of their business. Li Feng seemed to feel that it was inappropriate for him to make a move, so he said to Yi Qinghan, "Don't worry. My target is only you. I won't touch anyone else from the crazed manor." Chapter 662. Li Feng's target was Yi Qinghan. Killing one of them was enough. Heaven and Earth High God's intention was also very clear. Killing Yi Qinghan would mean the fall of the pillar of the insane manor. The powerful insane manor would also collapse in an instant. Yi Qinghan was silent. Li Feng had already shown his attitude. Now, as long as he appeared, he would have to face him, so he could only stall for time. After some discussion, the first battle of the day was still very important. Whoever won would be able to raise their morale. So, Emperor Yi was still the first to attack. The divine bird's morale was soaring. It stood on Emperor Ye's shoulder and was extremely arrogant. The divine bird and more than 30 mutated beasts looked at each other with disdain and shouted, "Whoever is not convinced, come and fight. This divine bird can send weaklings like you into the 100,000 mountains with one slap." Although the crowd did not know where the 100,000 mountains was, they knew that the divine bird's words were definitely not good. The people of God's organization were furious. If it were not for the fact that they could not defeat so many divine beasts, they would have already rushed up. At this moment, the Beast King walked up disdainfully. With a wave of his hand, more than 100 mutated beasts appeared out of thin air. Their combat power was not inferior to the divine bird's underlings. The key was that their numbers were several times more than the divine bird's underlings. OF*CK. So many beasts bullying so few. The divine bird's white feathers stood up. Its expression was exaggerated. It was also shocked. Roar. The Beast King roared in a low voice. More than 100 mutated beasts roared at the same time. The divine bird's underlings were so scared that they retreated, not daring to fight anymore. Roar. At end %yen*. The divine bird shrank its head and roared. No one knew what it was shouting about, but the mutated beasts actually shut up at the same time. They looked at the divine bird in confusion and turned to look at the Beast King from time to time, not knowing what to do. The tamed mutated beasts were no longer real beasts. They were almost puppets that obeyed the orders of the beast tamer. Although the divine bird was not a beast tamer, it knew how to communicate with and trick the divine beasts. The Beast King was stunned. He did not expect the divine bird to be able to communicate with the divine beasts he had tamed. The divine bird continued to yell urgently, trying to deceive the ferocious beasts. The gist of its message was, as a great divine beast, how can it succumb to the tyranny of humans? Kill the beast tamer and return the might of the divine beast clan. Fight, fight, fight. This guy had been with Yi Qinghan for a long time, and he had learned how to manipulate the beast's emotions. For a moment, the beast's ferocity was aroused once more. Roar! More than 100 ferocious beasts were enraged. Suddenly, the sky fell and the earth cracked. Their green eyes stared at the Beast King. Saliva dripped from the corners of their mouth. Their bloodthirsty nature was gradually exposed. The Beast King was so scared that his legs turned to jelly. He clenched his teeth and waved his whip. "Do you want to die? F***ck. How dare you be so arrogant?" The divine bird leaped into the sky, pointed at the Beast King and shouted, "You bastards, how dare you enslave the divine beasts of the 10,000 races? They are all ancient divine beasts, and their bloodlines are of high quality. How can you humiliate them? This divine bird is the myriad beast emperor. Today, I will definitely trample you under my feet. Brothers, attack! Beat this bastard to death!" Roar! The Lion King led the mutated divine beasts and roared. They were the first to charge at the Beast King. The group of mutated beasts were confused. They had no idea who their enemy was. The divine bird was right. They were mutated beasts with high-level bloodlines. How could they be controlled and enslaved by a lowly human? Roar! What are you all standing there for? Are you all going to be slaves for the rest of your lives? Divine beasts who are not willing to be slaves, get up! Get up! Use our iron hooves to trample this bastard to death. Brothers, charge with me! The divine bird continued to roar in the ancient beast language. Its aura was shocking, and it made the blood of the ferocious beasts boil. It extended a sharp claw and pointed at the Beast King. That impassioned attitude was not inferior to any master of speech. With just a glib tongue, the divine bird had managed to trick more than 100 ferocious beasts into betraying him. Emperor Yi played the 10,000 beasts roar, and the divine beasts' chi and blood were stimulated. They completely lost their minds and charged at the Beast King. God save me! The Beast King turned and ran. He didn't even want the whip anymore. How could he still be in the mood to enslave the ferocious beasts? The Beast King's natal divine beast wanted to help him block the ferocious beasts and stabilize the situation, but it was torn apart by a large group of divine beasts. A few of the ferocious beasts, led by the Fire Phoenix, grabbed the Beast King's limbs and tore him into pieces. His flesh and blood were devoured, and not even his godhead was left behind. Everyone was dumbfounded. Heaven and Earth High God, Zhong Tian High God, and Wu Yu were stunned. Qing Zhengshan, the dean of Tian-Ke Divine College, was so angry that he was trembling. The Beast King was the strongest beast tamer in Tian-Ke Divine College, and today, he died in the mouth of 10,000 beasts. At this moment, the divine bird was still impassioned. It said, "Charge with me," but in reality, it stood in the air without moving. Its behavior made people laugh. After the Beast King died, the 12 natal divine beasts died one after another and were devoured by the ferocious beast. After the ferocious beasts finished eating, their ferocious nature completely erupted. They looked at the humans around them. Emperor Ye's music stopped abruptly. They all glared at Emperor Yi and moved their limbs, approaching him. The divine bird was shocked and roared, "Follow this divine bird, and you will have food to eat and godhead to devour. If you dare to disobey, this divine bird will order all the races to kill you." Ing. The colorful snake suddenly turned into a heavenly dragon and swam around the divine bird, increasing its momentum. Screech. The god-slaying eagle also let out a mournful cry. The two divine beasts had the bloodline of the dragon race. After all, Yi Qinghan's essence blood was not given for free. The dragon race was the saint of all races, the true emperor. With a roar, it shook the ferocious beasts awake. Roar. The colorful snake roared again and looked down. It pierced its fangs and almost reached out its sharp claws to evolve into a 5-clawed golden dragon. Its momentum was terrifying. Roar. The Lion King roared and the Black Tortoise roared. They followed behind the divine bird and pressed down on more than 90 ferocious beasts. The ferocious beasts were at a loss. They were actually tricked by the divine bird. One of them was the first to submit, and the others followed closely behind. Boom! Heaven and Earth High God was furious. He punched the ground and was so angry that he staggered and almost fell to the ground. F***ck your ancestors. This damn bird, why is it not extinct? Some people in the God's organization were so angry that they lost their mind. How could they fight like this? Who could be Emperor Ye's opponent now? It was easy to deal with Emperor Yi. Damn. How could they fight more than 100 divine beasts? Everyone looked at Li Feng and the War King. Now, only they could take Emperor Ye's head from the 100 divine beasts. A bunch of bastards. This divine bird said that anyone who is more arrogant and shameless than me deserves to die. Who dares to be more arrogant than me? Come out and let me see. The divine bird was incomparably arrogant. With the support of more than 100 ferocious beasts and more than 30 divine beasts on his side, he could kill Li Feng. Puff! Everyone in the crazed mansion laughed. The people around them could not help but laugh. The divine bird had done a great deed. The God's organization's evil plan had been defeated by a lowly bird. Yi Qinghan's eyes almost turned into 2 lines. He was in a good mood. Chapter 663. At the top of the mountain, the old man stroked his beard and smiled. The god of gamblers was stunned. He didn't expect this to work. The king of beasts, who controlled more than 100 ferocious mythical beasts, died under the hooves of his own beasts. The devouring divine parrot's cheap mouth could really kill many people. Heaven and Earth High God's old fingers couldn't stop trembling, not because of fear, but because of anger. Qing Zhengshan was even more furious. The king of beasts was the signature powerhouse of Tian-Ke Divine College. Just by controlling more than a dozen mythical beasts, he could sweep through the younger generation. If it wasn't for the fact that beast tamers couldn't be ranked on the Fengyan list, he could have at least squeezed into the top 5. Even Yang Ru would have to step aside if he saw him, but he was finished just like that. Li Feng, kill one more. Kill Emperor Yi, these mythical beasts, and that stupid bird together. Heaven and Earth High God said coldly. Li Feng narrowed his eyes and stared at Heaven and Earth High God. He asked hoarsely, "Are you ordering me?" Heaven and Earth High God's breath stagnated, and he couldn't get angry. Li Feng was not only a weirdo, but he also had a superior god behind him. If he wanted to kill him, the person behind him would definitely be furious. If a superior god was angry, the entire God's organization would be destroyed, and only a single commander would be left. At that time, God's organization wouldn't be the first force in the world. No. I'm asking for your help. Heaven and Earth High God gritted his teeth and said in a low voice, "I've already announced publicly that the target is Yi Qinghan. If I attack now, where will I put my face?" Li Feng frowned and asked coldly, "Then help me kill these mythical beasts. Is that okay?" "Emperor Yi, I don't need your help." High God Wuyo was helpless. Li Feng was a man of his word, and he wasn't the Li Feng from 1,000 years ago. As long as it was an opponent, he would kill them all. Now, as he grew older, he became more mature and didn't kill as much. He started to settle down and search for a chance to become a high god. He wasn't interested in the killing of normal people. "I'll triple the price. If you agree, I'll make a move. If you don't, just pretend I didn't say anything." Li Feng stretched out 3 fingers and calmly said. He didn't care about more than 100 mythological beasts in his eyes. No matter how many enemies there were, they were just a flock of lambs waiting to be slaughtered in his eyes. 3 times. Heaven and Earth High God used 30,000 supreme-grade divine crystals and a month's worth of sword god cannon to invite Li Feng to help. 3 times, that would be 90,000 divine crystals, 90,000 top-grade treasures and 3 months of loaning the sword god's codex. Regardless of whether God's organization won or lost, there was no benefit for them. Heaven and Earth High God looked at King of War. He could kill generals easily, but if he killed Emperor Yi, he would be surrounded by so many mythical beasts. Even if he could get it back, the mythical bird could still help others. This guy would not be bound by the contract. Would he still have to fight in the next round? Therefore, Li Feng had to act and kill more than 100 divine beasts. As expected, the 3 high gods were unwilling. If they didn't use Li Feng, they would have lost the 1 million top-grade items. Thus, they gritted their teeth and agreed. Shua Li Feng moved. He stepped into the battlefield and drew his sword. His killing intent covered the sky. The experts around him coughed up blood and were sent flying. Even the barrier couldn't stop his killing intent. Yi Qinghan's pupils shrank. He roared, "My son, retreat!" Screech, whoosh whoosh whoosh. The moment Li Feng drew his sword, hundreds of sword rays tore through the void and shot toward the divine beasts. Pucci, roar. The 30 or so divine beasts at the front were all killed in an instant. The mythical bird cried out and fled with its minions. The colorful snake coiled around Emperor Ye's waist and rushed out of the battlefield. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, the second sword was unleashed. The sword rays were as fast as lightning, and each strand of sword energy could kill a powerhouse at the level of a prefecture master. More than 100 divine beasts couldn't stop Li Feng's 2 sword strikes. The sword energy was infused with killing intent, and the divine beasts were directly killed. Boom! It was too fast. Li Feng unleashed his 3rd sword strike, and it blasted toward Emperor Ye's back. The sword rays even cut through the Lion King's body. It was completely unstoppable, and it was indescribably powerful. Screech! The sword rays tore through the void and appeared behind Emperor Yi. It was completely unstoppable. Seeing that Emperor Yi was about to die, the man with different pupils suddenly moved. The war abyss roared, and the divine sword's main body blocked Emperor Ye's back half a meter. Kacha, the war abyss broke. The war abyss sword, ranked 3rd among the 10 great divine weapons, broke just like that. Everyone was frightened by Li Feng's sword. It was too powerful, so powerful that no one had the will to resist. 3 sword strikes, and more than 100 divine beasts were killed. Only the mythical bird and the colorful snake were left. The sword energy even directly cut the war abyss. Just as the war abyss broke, the man with different pupils stretched out his hand and pulled Emperor Yi away from the sword's edge, dodging the fatal blow. Emperor Yi didn't even have the chance to play the zither. Li Feng was swift and decisive, and his sword was sure to kill. He was indeed worthy of being the legendary Killer King. Just his murderous aura alone was enough to make the prefecture lord cough blood and fly backward. He was indeed worthy of being a legend, a myth, the number 1 person below the superior gods. Yi Qinghan's body trembled. He was definitely frightened. He wasn't frightened by Li Feng's sword, but by Emperor Ye's dangerous situation. Emperor Yi had almost died. I didn't expect that a dignified existence of legends would speak like fart. Wasn't your target me? Didn't you say that you wouldn't attack others? Yi Qinghan roared angrily as he held the 10 directions seal and stomped on the ground. Li Feng's gaze was cold. He knew that he was in the wrong, so he said coldly, "If I wanted to kill her, she would already be dead. This time, I'll give you a warning. If you dare to speak rudely to me again, I'll make you regret it. I'll kill every single person from your crazed manner." Yi Qinghan's aura stagnated, and his body tensed up to the point of trembling. He took a deep breath and said to himself, "Calm down, I need time. Crazed manner can hold on for at least 10 days. At night, I can enter the alternate space to cultivate, which is equivalent to 10 years. I don't believe that I won't be his match at that time. You can also attack now. After killing you, I won't have to waste my time here. I don't even bother to attack the other trash of crazed manner, Li Feng said indifferently. Everyone looked at Yi Qinghan. This was a naked humiliation. Could Yi Qinghan really endure it? Qinghan, don't listen to him. It's not your style to throw your life away. Gu Qingyu took a step forward and pressed down on Yi Qinghan's shoulder, afraid that he would rush forward impulsively. With Li Feng's speed and sharp sword qi, Yi Qinghan definitely wouldn't have a chance to escape. He wouldn't even have a chance to attack. Yi Qinghan, aren't you awesome? Come up and die. The 100 elites of God's organization sneered and taunted Yi Qinghan, hoping that he would come up and die first. That way, the rest of Crazed Manor would be easy to deal with. Master, don't be rash. This person's attack speed is too fast. He killed more than 100 divine beasts with just 3 swords. He's not on the same level as us. Be patient, there will be a chance to turn things around. Emperor Ye's face was pale. He had never met such an opponent before. He didn't even have a chance to attack. If not for the Rainbow Snake's quick reaction, he would have died under that sword. How could the man with different pupils save him? Chapter 664. Li Feng's guarantee gave Kuang Fu hope. He had only delayed Yi Qinghan, but the other members of Kuang Fu were not weak. God's organization's morale soared. More than 100 mutated beasts were killed by Li Feng in 3 moves. Their battle intent was released, and they hoped to display Li Feng's aura. After Li Feng left, God's organization sent out a random mid-level extreme Dao expert. Moreover, he was a king of the same level. The second in command of Surging Cloud's stronghold was an internal member of God's organization. His name was Ranchenjue. Ranchenjue had a transcendent aura. His eyes were full of radiance. He held a sword in one hand and stepped on the wind, looking very elegant. This kind of expert could only be ranked in the middle among the 100 members of God's organization. Let me. Lin Wutian stepped into the battlefield. He was like a lifeless sword, sharp and ruthless. Ranchenjue looked at Lin Wutian with surprise. His divine sense couldn't find any trace of Lin Wutian. It was as if a sword was standing in front of him, cold and emotionless. He could vaguely sense the sword Dao. Gu Qingyu's only disciple had inherited the solitary sword Dao. He had cultivated the great Nirvana sword art to its peak after 4 years of bitter cultivation. Each move was more terrifying than the last. Surging Cloud Stronghold's second in command, Ranchenjue. Ranchenjue cupped his fists and introduced himself. Lin Wutian said indifferently, I'm Lin Wutian, the successor of the solitary sword Dao from Kuang sect. I'm just a nobody. Arrogant. If I attack, you won't have the chance to attack, Ranchenjue said disdainfully. His Surging Cloud sword art was as fast as lightning. He attacked with a single move, piercing through the godhead. Shua Ranchenjue moved. He pulled out his sword. Before the sword was out of its sheath, the sword light tore through the sky. Whoosh, great Nirvana sword art. Lin Wutian also moved. No one saw how he moved. He disappeared from everyone's sight. Then, 3 sword lights appeared in the sky, piercing through the void and imprinting on Ranchenjue's chest. Ranchenjue was sent flying, and his blood dyed the sky red. Boom! Sword Dao rumbled. The solitary sword Dao appeared 10,000 li in the sky, merging with Lin Wutian. Heaven and sword Dao didn't dissipate even after Lin Wutian withdrew his sword Dao. Dead silence. The world was deathly silent. Everyone looked at Ranchenjue. After flying backwards, he stood 100 meters away. They knew that his physical body was already dead, but why didn't his soul escape with his godhead? 3 breaths later, Ranchenjue fell to the ground. His eyes were filled with fear and unwillingness. Even the soul in his godhead couldn't escape and was killed by Lin Wutian's sword. Hiss! The people of God's organization sucked in a breath of cold air. Lin Wutian's sword speed was too fast. Even if he couldn't be compared with Li Feng, he would still die on the spot if he couldn't dodge his attack. Retreat, Gu Qingyu said in a low voice. Lin Wutian didn't hesitate. Now that his power had been exposed, his opponent would definitely send out their strongest warrior. He was too young, so he wouldn't have a chance. After Lin Wutian retreated, Di Longtian stepped onto the stage with the Heavenly Tao Human Sovereign Sword. He was still a junior of the Insane Mansion, so King of War wasn't interested at all. Even when High God Qiankuan signaled him to step onto the stage, he pretended not to see it. Let me. Luowen, an outer member of God's organization and a ranker on the Wind and Cloud list, held a halberd in his hand. He was 3 meters tall and looked like a giant. Di Longtian moved the guardian sword with his fingertip. He didn't even make a sound. His eyes were like dragons, and the imprint on his body transformed into a dragon. Luo 1. Di Longtian. The two of them simply stated their identities and erupted at the same time. Neither of them was confident anymore. God's organization didn't waste any more words when facing the Insane Mansion. They were treating them as real opponents. Roar, roar. Di Longtian unsheathed his guardian sword. The guardian sword contained the power of protection, slaughter, and the boundless heavenly Tao. As the guardian sword appeared, a divine dragon rushed out of Di Longtian's body and let out a deafening roar. That's the heavenly Tao sword. What kind of dragon is that? That's not a dragon pet. It's a companion item. A dozen old monsters exclaimed hoarsely. They were high gods, so they naturally knew the power of the heavenly Tao sword, even if it was only from a small plane. Ancient killing god, even if I die, I have no regret. Eternal glory. The small characters on the guardian sword actually transformed into large characters capable of suppressing the heavens. They rumbled towards Luowen, each word striking his heart. Killing god. Di Longtian didn't use the great Nirvana sword art. Instead, he used the ancient killing god's Tao heart. The heavenly Tao sword transformed into a heaven-piercing sword that cut through everything and descended from the sky. Luowen was shocked. His halberd shot toward the sky with divine power pouring out. Boom. Whoosh. The guardian sword shone brightly and tore apart the halberd before rushing toward Luowen. Whoosh. Di Longtian stepped on the golden dragon and moved as fast as lightning. The entire sky was filled with afterimages. Luowen had nowhere to hide. Luowen's hands and feet turned cold. He didn't know where to hide. He only felt 10,000 rays of sword energy entering his body. Boom. Luowen's body exploded. His godhead didn't even have time to escape before it was grabbed by Di Longtian. Don't fight. Retreat. Yi Qinghan's eyes were filled with approval. Di Longtian could finally walk to the front. Di Shang's death had been worth it. It had awakened the wildness in his heart. Di Longtian had quickly retreated after obtaining the godhead. Now, he was exhausting the enemy. After 100 battles, the Kuang sect would win. The 3 grand elders of the God organization were furious. Up until now, other than Li Feng, the others had all been defeated. What a bunch of trash! Even the people who gathered intelligence on the Kuang sect are trash. Is this the information they sent? High God Qiankuan looked coldly at Yuanli. He didn't understand how this head deacon worked. Schwerer, you fight this battle. I want one of them to die. The Snow Race's Grand Elder looked at a young woman. She was wearing snow-white clothes, and her black hair was hidden under her snow-white robes. She was almost transparent. Schwerer nodded. Her footsteps were light, and her body seemed to be weightless. She didn't have the slightest fluctuation of divine power, but she could fly in the air. Snow danced around her, and the grand Tao of snow rumbled. Tisk, tsk, tsk. I'll take her and make her my wife. Xian Yanxue smiled evilly and looked at Yi Qinghan. He didn't know if he could capture her alive. Yi Qinghan nodded and said indifferently, "It'll be a battle to the death. If she loses, she'll die. Spare her life, and she'll be yours." Hearing this, Xian Yanshua's interest was immediately piqued. He stepped onto the stage, and the unruly smile on his face drew cheers from many female cultivators. But when Shui saw that unruly smile, she wanted to torture him. "Wife, I've been wanting to go to your house to propose marriage. I didn't expect you to come knocking on my door today." Xian Yanshua smiled evilly. "Shameless! Who's your wife?" Shui said coldly. "If you see me, you'll definitely remember me. I'm the one you're destined to be with. I've waited for 1,000 years in the mythological realm, and I'll only meet you when we meet again. You and I made a promise that we'll reincarnate for 1,000 years, and that's why I'm called Xian Yanshua, and you're called Shui." At this moment, Xian Yanshua's expression was so serious, and his emotional words and voice made people believe that he was telling the truth. Shui. Chapter 665. Shui had the unique snow god body of the snow race. This body type would only appear on a woman, and it was unique to the snow race. It was even stronger than Jian Qinshue's scarlet snow body. It could freeze thousands of miles, and even the soul of a god spirit could not escape death. At this moment, Shui was shocked speechless by Xian Yanshua's profound and vicissitudes. "Do you have any shame? This is a fight to the death. Do you think I'm a 3-year-old girl?" Shui's snow-white face flushed red. She was usually calm and composed, but now her face and ears were flushed red. She was a little angry. "Shame? Do you have any shame for me? Can I kiss you?" Xian Yanshua pretended not to understand and asked happily. "Kill him. Why are you talking to him?" The Snow Clan's great elder was furious. Xian Yanshua dared to flirt with the Snow Clan's princess in front of everyone. "Stop!" Xian Yanshua saw Shui was about to attack, so he stretched out his hand and said seriously, "Shui, as the saying goes, if you marry a chicken, follow the chicken, if you marry a dog, follow the dog. You are mine, so don't listen to that old thing." The Snow Clan's great elder was so angry that he almost vomited blood. Everyone laughed. The more trouble there was, the happier they would be. Only then did Shui realize that she had been teased by this shameless and licentious young master again. She was instantly enraged, and with a wave of her hand, the temperature of heaven and earth plummeted to the point where it would freeze the body and soul of the priestess. Everyone who was 1,000 meters away shuddered and rubbed their hands involuntarily. Ice crystals appeared in the air and the space seemed to be frozen, shattering at the slightest touch. A layer of snow suddenly appeared on Xian Yanshua's body, and it quickly spread to his whole body. Snow appeared inexplicably and covered the arena. Most of it gathered on his body, and his face quickly froze. The crazy sex people were shocked. Xian Yanshua, who was ranked 4th, was a powerful ally of the crazy sect. If he was killed so easily, the situation would be even worse. Shui's seemingly cold face showed a hint of doubt. Xian Yanshua, who was frozen, was looking at her without fear. He did not even defend himself, as if he knew she would not kill him. "Humph! Don't blame me if you want to die." Shui snorted and pressed her right thumb on her middle finger. A wisp of God's power turned into an ice sword and shot towards Xian Yanshua. As long as this sword pierced through the god's body, Xian Yanshua would only have his godhead and soul left, and he would not be able to fight at all. Whoosh! The ice sword was unstoppable, causing space to shatter. White sword chi instantly appeared in front of Xian Yanshua. Just as everyone thought that Xian Yanshua was going to die, the ice and snow around his body suddenly disappeared. He stretched out his hands and lightly caught the ice sword as he looked at Shui and said sadly, "Wife, you want to kill your husband?" "You!" Shui jumped in fright. She didn't expect Xian Yanshui to be able to ignore her great Tao of snow. "Sigh, Have you really forgotten about your husband? You were the one who gave me my grand Tao of snow, Xianyan Shui said. Impossible. How could he possibly know the snow grand Tao? The great elder of the snow race was shocked as he watched Xianyan Shui silently take control of Shui Er's great Tao of snow. Whoosh, Shui froze on the spot, and Xianyan Shui took the opportunity to move. Her figure flashed, and she appeared behind Shui. A slap ruthlessly landed on Shui Er's buttocks. Her soft and supple skin was so soft that it felt as though there were no bones in it. Ah! Shui shrieked. Her shriek caused all the men to tremble. Her shriek made everyone's bones go soft. Xianyan Shui's figure flashed again. He raised his hand and sniffed it. His expression was extremely wretched. So fragrant, so soft. Xianyan Shui said, intoxicated. You pervert! Shui was furious. She pulled out her ice sword and stabbed at Xianyan Shui. Her great Tao of snow covered the sky, giving Xianyan Shui no chance to dodge. However, Shui seemed to have forgotten that Xianyan Shui also knew the great Tao of snow. His figure flashed again, and he directly merged with the great Tao of snow, appearing beside Shui. He reached out and swept his hand across her plump breast. Shui Er's sword trembled, and she almost threw it away. My great assault technique is unparalleled in the world. No one has been able to dodge it, Xianyan Shui said proudly. Whoosh! Shui swung her sword back. It broke through the void and swept past Xianyan Shui's head and chest. However, he flew back and dodged it. Tisk, tsk, tsk. I like your temper. Xianyan Shui was completely playing around. The sky was filled with afterimages, sometimes attacking the chest, sometimes slapping the butt. Shui Er was caught off guard and lost her composure. The great Tao of snow could not freeze Xianyan Shui. She was not as fast as him, nor was she as strong as him. Shui Er became a weak little girl. In the end, she simply gave up attacking. She protected her breasts with one hand and her breasts with the other. She looked at Xianyan Shui with tears in her eyes. When Xianyan Shui saw this, he was too embarrassed to continue attacking. This was completely bullying. Why did you stop? Xianyan Shui asked seriously. Shui wanted to say something several times but stopped. She did not know what to say. Thinking about how embarrassing she had been, she burst into tears. Be good. Your husband didn't mean to bully you. Now that you've lost, it's like you've died once. Come home with me obediently. Don't listen to that damn old man. Xianyan Shui approached Shui like he was coaxing a child. Shui was so frightened that she retreated. She covered her breasts and but with her hands and looked at Xianyan Shui with vigilance. This is too despicable. The divine bird suppressed his sadness. Seeing Xianyan Shui play with the goddess of God organization, he was in a good mood. He said to Xianyan Shui, well done. Capture her and make her the mistress of the fort. Hearing this, Xianyan Shui no longer hesitated. He attacked with lightning speed, hitting a major acupoint on Shui Er's chest and sealing all of her meridians. Her divine power could not flow, and she became immortal. He grabbed Shui Er by the neck and dragged her back to the insane sect. Puff! Ah! The great elder of the Snow Clan was so angry that he vomited blood and screamed. The princess of the Snow Clan, the goddess of many people's dreams, was captured by Xianyan Shui just like that. She was humiliated in public. The Snow Clan's face was completely lost. The faces of the members of God organization turned purple. They had lost again. This is infuriating. High God Qiankuan was so angry that he roared at the 90 or so members of God organization. Whoever kills a member of the insane sect will be my last disciple and rewarded with 1,000 supreme-grade God crystals. With such a great reward, there were bound to be brave men. This time, their emotions were stirred, and all of them stepped forward, ready to participate in the battle. I'll do it! Whoosh! Whoosh! 3 figures rushed to the battlefield. Chapter 666. God's organization's morale was high as they fought to get on the stage. In the end, a famous expert from the Wind and Cloud leaderboard took the initiative and rushed onto the stage. At this moment, they could kill anyone they wanted, regardless of the cost. As long as they didn't die, everything was worth it. Not only would they get supreme-grade God crystals, they could also become the last disciple of a higher God priest. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Wasn't Li Feng so strong because he had a higher God priest as his master? Otherwise, how could he be above all the middle God priests? Even a peak middle God priest was no match for him. Stan Wuxia had inherited Yi Qinghan's 5 elements Dao body. His 5 godhoods were entrenched in his sea of consciousness, and he was full of fighting spirit. He was simply a replica of Yi Qinghan. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that he was Yi Qinghan's son. As soon as the two entered the arena, they didn't even announce their names. Instead, they began to fight each other. They were fighting with their lives on the line. The slightest carelessness could lead to death. The 5 elements battle dragon roared. Although Wu Xie was from the younger generation, he had Yi Qinghan's fighting spirit and pride. He had the conviction to win. Boom, boom, boom. In the blink of an eye, the two were injured. Flesh and blood splattered everywhere. They didn't even bother to defend and just fought with all their might. Yi Qinghan frowned. Stan Wuxia hadn't fully accepted the 5 elemental Dao body and was used to his golden bloodline. This restricted his strength greatly. In addition, he was still too young, and his opponent was a prefecture master of the same generation as him. He was a king of the younger generation. It was already very good that Wuxia could injure him. However, the situation wasn't looking good. At the very least, Wuxia didn't have the advantage. Wuxia didn't have Di Longtian's guardian sword and didn't comprehend the terrifying solitary sword Dao. Once he was defeated, he might die in battle. Gotcha! Yi Qinghan clenched his iron fist. Wuxia was a child he had watched grow up. He had completely treated Wuxia as his own son. At this moment, he was very nervous. Boom! Stan Wuxia was still relying on his physical body and iron fists to fight with his opponent's divine sword. He was at a disadvantage. However, he had already cultivated the heavenly dragon coiling eagle hands to a high level, and he gradually stabilized the situation. Every time he got close, he would tear off a piece of his opponent's flesh. That person was so angry that he even used a method of mutual destruction. He pierced his own body with his sword and stabbed the divine sword into Stan Wuxia's body. Tan Huangtian's body tensed up. At this moment, he still cared about this son of his. Whether or not Wu Xie had the golden origin, he was still his son. That bond of flesh and blood would not change. Roar! Si Wuxia's body was connected to his opponent's body by the divine sword. A large piece of flesh was minced by the sword qi. Just as he was about to lose, he opened his mouth and bit his opponent's throat. His hands turned into claws and pierced into his opponent's eyes. Ah! Miserable screams shook the heavens and earth. The two of them rolled on the ground, shaking everyone to the core. God's organization had finally turned the tables. Regardless of whether Si Wuxia would die in battle or not, at least they would not lose several generals in a row like before. Everyone clenched their fists, itching to go up and fight. The angrier Yi Qinghan was, the calmer he appeared. He watched as Si Wuxia tangled with his opponent. His body was covered in blood and wounds. He slowly retreated from the battlefield and returned to the southern mountains pass. He could not fight now. Instead of wasting time watching his brothers and sisters suffer, he would rather return to the alternate space and cultivate. In the alternate space, Yi Qinghan cultivated the 10 directions return to one technique. The space laws gradually became clearer. He could even sense the realm of beasts without going through the portal. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan used the stellar transposition to pass through the barrier. However, he failed the first time. He passed through the space-time turbulence and was almost minced into pieces. He fled back to the alternate space in a panic. Time flew by. Half a year passed in the alternate space. Yi Qinghan successfully passed through space and grasped the mysteries of space laws. The space godhead gradually formed, and the mystical secret techniques became clearer. He could travel thousands of miles in a snap of his fingers and enter another space. After a year, the seventh godhead was finally formed. Boom! The seven godheads formed a special net that connected and strengthened each other. The speed of channeling the primal chaos energy increased tenfold. The vast space godhead was filled with divine power. The space inside the space godhead was several times larger than the other godheads. It was equivalent to several godheads. In terms of divine power reserves, Yi Qinghan was number one among the middle-level god priests. However, his explosive power was ultimately inferior to Li Feng's. The explosive power of such a person could break the War Abyss sword with a casual strike. It was truly terrifying. Humph! You can break the Deep War sword. Let's see if you can break the 10 Directions seal. Yi Qinghan coldly snorted. He kept trying to use the 10 Directions seal. As long as he could use the seal to block Li Feng's attacks, he could exhaust Li Feng to death. However, Yi Qinghan understood that, even with the 10 Directions seal as his armor, he needed to be strong enough to block the rebounding power. If his opponent could use the rebounding power to kill him through the 10 Directions seal, the 10 Directions seal would be rendered useless. 10 Directions return to 1. Suppress. Asterisk whoosh. Whoosh. Whoosh asterisk Yi Qinghan went about refining the 10 Directions seal. With the 10 Directions seal, he strove to achieve both offense and defense. It could be used for both offense and defense. Its offense could suppress the heavens, and its defense could block the attacks of 10,000 enemies. While Yi Qinghan was bitterly cultivating in the alternate space, the battle outside was gradually becoming more and more intense. The other party was using the method of mutual destruction to fight. Moreover, they were increasing their speed. Soon, half of the insane sex people had been killed. Si Wuxie was seriously injured. Although he had killed the other party, he had no combat power left. Nie Tian was next. Nie Tian had just started fighting when he encountered the King of War. This was an existence who had fought in the planar battlefield for many years. Nie Tian's improvement was not small. He was evenly matched with the King of War. Even if his flesh was destroyed, he still managed to get rid of a layer of his opponent's skin. Run. Don't fight recklessly. Emperor Yi reminded in a low voice. The King of War's battle prowess and cultivation base were far superior to Nie Tian's. It was a blessing from the heavens that Nie Tian was able to survive. Nie Tian didn't care about his face. He slashed the void with his axe, creating a rift in the sky, and fled the arena. In the end, Si Wuxie made his move. No matter what era the great emperor was in, he was an unsurpassable legend. With the power of an ordinary medium god priest and a prefecture master-level godhead, he was able to kill a veteran prefecture master on the spot, while he himself was only severely injured. His battle prowess and dominance shocked God's organization, as well as Stan Wuxie. After a day of continuous fighting, the insane sect had heavily injured 17 of their opponents. Meanwhile, they had also heavily injured 13 of their own. Zi Tian, Qitian Monkey King, and Gu Qingyu were all heavily injured. The insane sect was fighting without any regard for the cost. As long as one of their opponents died, they would succeed. God's organization started a war of attrition, and they didn't rest at night until the last person was killed. The insane sect had fewer and fewer people left, while the insane sect still had a lot of people left. Chapter 667. The tempo of the battle was getting faster and faster. His opponent only wanted to defeat the people from Crazed Manor and escape with heavy injuries. As long as he crippled everyone, he would have to appear again in the next round. How could he not die when facing the peak powerhouses of God's organization while heavily injured? Soon, casualties appeared in the insane sect. A powerful external helper, Yang Ru, died in battle. 2 inner sect members died, Zi Tian and Yen Yunbei. They were both invincible war kings, elites who had participated in the Endless Plains War. The insane sect's inner sect had always been good people. Now that 2 of them had died, Emperor Yi had tears in his eyes. The others were depressed and grief-stricken. In the middle of the night, Xian Yanxue joined the battle again. Gu Qingyu, Lin Wutian, and Di Longtian were all injured. There was no time to recover. They could only delay the battle one by one. The insane sect had paid a great price, but God's organization had paid an even greater price. Xian Yanxue faced War King, and both of them had murderous intent in their eyes. I can get 5,000 top-grade God crystals for killing you, and I can learn a superior God technique for 3 months. Thank you for giving me your head. War King was incomparably cold and arrogant. Facing Xian Yanxue, who was ranked 4th on the Wind Cloud list, his battle intent soared. Xian Yanxue rubbed his nose and smiled. I didn't expect that I would be so valuable that God's organization would take out a superior God technique to attract you. Then you can die peacefully. I'll accept this favor. War King finally took out his weapon. It was a big black hammer. It was cold and dark, and with a light shake, space exploded. Xian Yanshue's Tao of Snow was instantly shattered. Boom! Whoosh! The 2 hammers stirred space and time, and it was as if reincarnation had appeared. Yin and Yang reversed. The vanquishing evil sword struck the hammer, and the ear-piercing sound caused the weak outside to bleed from their orifices. War King's strength was boundless, and he was worthy of being called the War King. Such an existence was simply a war machine. He swung the hammer as if it were weightless, and Xian Yanxue couldn't get close to him. Both sides' godly power was rapidly depleting. At this moment it was a contest of godly power. If either side revealed a flaw, it would be fatal. Xian Yanxue was happy to stall for time. After a day and a night, there were not many people left who could fight. Apart from Yi Lingxian, Wang Chen, and Miao Miao, the others had already fought, and they were all seriously injured. As for the people with different pupils, they did not seem to want to fight. Berserk God Blade King was still standing in God's organization's team. Seeing that there were a few more people in God's organization's team, he recognized 2 of them. His pupils couldn't help but shrink as he thought to himself, "It's them." Is God's insane sect really finished? They were the direct disciples of the High God of Primal Chaos, twins named Blood Soul and Blood Soul. Their minds were connected, and when they joined forces, they could defeat Li Feng. Even their individual combat strength was comparable to Panga Heaven and Xian Yuantian. Emperor Yi, I suggest you bring out your trump cards. If you don't have any, it's best to admit defeat. God's organization has invited a few more experts. I only know 2 of them, and they are direct disciples of the High God of Primal Chaos. If the others are also direct disciples of the High God of Primal Chaos, I'm afraid that in the next round, no one will be able to escape, Berserk God Blade King reminded. Emperor Yi fell silent. On his side, there were only a few people who were not injured. If this continued, they would all die. Now that the other side had 2 disciples of the High God of Primal Chaos, there was no way they could continue fighting. On the opposite mountain, the old man and the gambling god stared at God's organization's endless stream of helpers, each one more ridiculous than the last. It was clear that they wanted to eat up the insane sect. Are they trying to swallow my 10,000 top-grade god crystals? The old man said with dissatisfaction. Motherfucker, I've been running rampant in the mythological plane for tens of thousands of years. Apart from using my godly power, I can't win even once in gambling? The gambling god was furious. He had gambled so many times, but he had not won even once. This was not just a matter of luck. Do you have a disciple? A young one? The old man asked. No. The gambling god was helpless. He had been playing around all these years. How could he be in the mood to accept a disciple? Trash, you're an idiot who loses your will. You've learned all these skills for nothing. Sooner or later, you'll bring them back to your coffin, the old man said with dissatisfaction. The gambling god rolled his eyes. He was a high god of primal chaos, but he was being scolded like this. How could he accept this? He immediately retorted, Do you have a disciple? You're not trash. Find me a young disciple who is better than Li Feng. F*CKU, if you dare to disrespect me again, I'll beat you to death. The old man grabbed the gambling god's hair and kicked him down the mountain. The gambling god was furious. He rushed up madly, but before he could do anything, the old man kicked him down again. Only then did the gambling god realize that the old man in front of him had exceeded the scope of an ordinary high god of primal chaos. What do you want? The gambling god climbed up the mountain again and asked angrily. Find me a few young experts. If you can't find them, I'll beat you to death. The old man said rudely. Where am I supposed to find them for you? Other than the top 3 on the leaderboard, everyone who can come is here. Those who can't come must be those old men who don't want their disciples or family members to come and join in the fun. The gambling god was exasperated. This old man was simply unreasonable. The old man slowly stood up and looked down at the gambling god. His seemingly stooped body actually emitted an aura of war. However, this aura was only directed at the gambling god. It scared him and made him take a few steps back. Then find me the top 3 on the leaderboard. If you don't agree, then capture them, the old man said coldly. The gambling god smiled bitterly. Looking at the situation, he said helplessly, It seems like there's not much time left. I can't make it in time. Who says you can't make it in time? The old man smirked and shouted at Xian Yanxue and King of War, who were still fighting in the arena. Stop fighting for a day. No. I won't allow a truce. Heaven and Earth High God rejected the old man's request without hesitation. The old man suddenly jumped up and kicked. It seemed very slow, but in the blink of an eye, it kicked Heaven and Earth High God's chest. Bang! Heaven and Earth High God didn't have time to dodge and was kicked. He almost suffocated on the spot. He felt like his divine body was about to explode. He rolled a few times and finally stopped. Before he could get angry, the old man was already in front of him and slapped him a few times. Slap, 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 slap. The crisp slaps shocked everyone. That was a superior god's shrine. How could he hit it so violently? F*CKU. I want to stop fighting, not ask for your opinion. Bang, bang, bang. Slap, slap, boom, 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 boom. Heaven and Earth High God was instantly stunned. The old man looked like he would be blown away by the wind, but when he punched, he couldn't dodge. Every punch landed on his bones, and it was so painful that he couldn't use his divine power. F*CKU. I allowed you to stop fighting, but you don't agree when I want to stop fighting. Are you bullying me because I'm old and weak? The old man was old but had a bad temper. In the blink of an eye, he had slapped Heaven and Earth High God more than 10 times. Boom! Not long after, the originally awe-inspiring High God Qiankuan was beaten black and blue. Even his teeth were broken. Chapter 668. In an instant, High God Qiankuan was slapped dozens of times and kicked more than 100 times by the old man. Even his bones were broken. The old man was still yelling. Everyone was dumbfounded. Even High God Wu Yu and High God Zhong Tian didn't dare to attack. After all, the old man wasn't going to kill him, he was just teaching him a lesson. Once he attacked, it would be a fight to the death with an old monster. I want to stop. Is that still allowed? Slap. The old man grabbed High God Qian Kun by the throat and slapped him every time he asked a question. High God Qian Kun couldn't speak or resist. He couldn't use his divine power and his face turned red. His eyes almost popped out of their socket. Stop, old man, please stop. It's just a misunderstanding. High God Wu Yu and High God Zhong Tian quickly stepped forward but didn't dare to act recklessly. They could only stop the fight and take High God Qiankuan away. High God Qiankuan was furious. He looked at the old man's unfamiliar face and wanted to use his divine power to kill him. However, he was stopped by High God Wu Yu and High God Zhong Tian. This old man was obviously a high god and was ridiculously strong. They didn't know where he came from, so it wouldn't do them any good to fight him. Fellow Taoist, is this a misunderstanding? This has nothing to do with you. This is a competition between the younger generation of God organization and the younger generation of insane sect. As an outsider, how can you ask for a stop? High God Zhong Tian asked in a deep voice. I'm a little tired and want to go back to sleep. However, I don't want to miss a good show, so I asked for a stop. Why? You don't want to stop? The old man raised his eyebrows and asked. You? Aren't you bullying us? High God Wu Yu couldn't suppress his anger and asked angrily. Yes, I am bullying you. You bullied my disciple, so I'll bully you. If you don't like it, come and fight. Anyway, you're shameless. Come at me together and I'll take a step back. The old man's eyes flashed. He revealed his identity but didn't change his face. He was obviously Nine Remoteness Master. Insane sect? The three high gods took a step back at the same time and looked at the Nine Serenities Master warily. They realized that they really didn't know him, so they couldn't help but look at Qing Zhengshan, hoping that he could explain. Qing Zhengshan was the dean of the three divinity colleges. His seniority was so high that even Wuyo Qiankuan and the other two had consulted him before. He was almost a few years younger than the Nine Serenities Lord. At this moment, he squinted at the Nine Serenities Lord and felt his hair stand on end. He felt a sense of déjà vu and was extremely dangerous. He couldn't help but take a step back. May I know your name? You're not from the mythological plane, are you? Qing Zhengshan asked. High-level gods from different planes were strictly prohibited from entering another plane during peacetime. Otherwise, it would easily lead to a planar war. This was an unwritten rule. As long as the old man sitting upright was not a superior god priest from the mythical dimension, all the superior god priests present had the responsibility to kill the Lord of Abyss. Little thing, are you interested in this old man's identity? I don't want to scare you to death, you bastard. Is your teacher Evil Dragon Supreme Venerable dead yet? If he's not, ask him to come out and tell me. The Nine Serenities Lord's divine light flashed and he revealed his true form. His eyes were so sharp that Qing Zhengshan trembled and took a few steps back. Qing Zhengshan seemed to have thought of the Nine Serenities Lord. He quickly bowed and said, I didn't know you were coming. Please forgive me for not coming out to meet you. Teacher has been in seclusion for hundreds of thousands of years. I don't know where he has gone. The numerous superior god priests were shocked. There were not many who could make Qing Zhengshan bow and salute. There were no more than 3 people in the entire mythological dimension. However, this person was not one of them. There could only be one possibility. This person was the existence that overrode all the middle planes. Greetings, Senior. Several superior god priests who came to watch the show bowed and saluted. As for the other mansion masters, they directly knelt down. Zhong Tian, Qian Kuan, and Wanderer Worryless suddenly felt that they had kicked an iron board. Especially Qian Kuan. He felt more disgusted than if he had eaten a fly. After being beaten and humiliated, he had no choice but to bow and apologize. Senior, I didn't know you were behind the crazy sect. Otherwise, I wouldn't have dared to bicker with Yi Qinghan. Qian Kuan High God wanted to cry but had no tears. He covered his bruised old face and said, "Bicker? Are you saying that Yi Ching Han was rude and offended you?" The 9 Serenities Lord asked coldly. "No. I really didn't. This is just a misunderstanding. Senior, please don't take it to heart. I'll take them away and never offend the crazy sect again," Zhong Tian quickly said. "But this old man wants to watch the competition, especially the arena tournament where only one side will stop. Continue to fight. Why should I stop? You bullied my disciple. I'll only stop when I get back at you. Let's call a truce tonight and continue tomorrow." The 9 Serenities Lord was so arrogant that the entire lawless area seemed to have fallen into the cycle of reincarnation and disappeared from the mythical realm. The young talents of God's organization gasped. Even Li Feng's expression changed. Those few powerful external aides, the disciples of the high-level divine shrine, had pale faces. They kept moving backward, not daring to stand at the front. As disciples of the high-level divine shrine, how could they not know the name of the 9 Serenities Master? He was the oldest living old monster in the 3,000 Middle Plains. The god of gamblers finally understood. No wonder they were so helpless in front of this old man. This old man was an old monster. "Why aren't you going? Do you want me to go find him myself?" The 9 Serenities Lord glared at the god of gamblers and said coldly. The god of gamblers had no choice but to turn around and rush to the Middle Realm battlefield. Outside the southern mountain pass, the crazy sect was excited. They didn't expect Yi Ching Han to have such an existence behind him. Emperor Yi felt wronged. He had been frightened by Li Feng's sword. Plus, he had lost 2 of his closest friends in the inner sect. He felt even more depressed. He looked at the 9 Serenities Lord as if he was looking at his father. Tears flowed down his cheeks like pearls. The 9 Serenities Lord looked at Emperor Ye's pitiful appearance and smiled evilly at Li Feng. He asked calmly, "Is it fun to bully a child?" Li Feng smiled bitterly and said respectfully, "I was wrong. Please punish me, Senior." "Who is your master?" The 9 Serenities Lord asked coldly. "Senior, my master is the Supreme Pure God." Li Feng didn't dare to hide anything and replied respectfully. "You bullied my disciple, so I bullied your master. Is that okay?" The 9 Serenities Lord looked down at Li Feng and asked harshly. Li Feng was stunned. He looked at the 9 Serenities Lord's domineering eyes and didn't dare to shake his head. He could only nod. Li Feng nodded and the 9 Serenities Lord disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already above the imperial city of the 3 Pure God Nation. The imperial city was vast and majestic. The fate of the world gathered. Wherever the dragon head pointed, divine Qi gathered. It was filled with ancient vicissitudes. There were a total of 3 palaces in the imperial city. They were located in the north, east, and west. The Supreme Pure God lived in the Great Desolation Palace in the north. The 9 Serenities Lord descended from the sky and crushed the palace in front of the Great Desolation Palace. He then rushed into the Great Desolation Palace. The Great Desolation Palace was in chaos. The guards and women were all thrown out by him. Chapter 669. The Grand Palace, which was majestic and vast, had experienced the vicissitudes of millions of years. However, it was crushed into pieces by the 9 Remoteness Lord with a few stomp. A large number of guards and maids were thrown out. Those who were slightly disrespectful were slapped into the ground. Whoosh! Suddenly, several terrifying auras erupted from the imperial city of the 3 Clear Divine Nation. All of them were from the High God worshippers. The Divine Nation had more than 3 High Gods. There were at least 5 of them. 2 waves of murderous aura erupted from the depths of the Grand Palace. A huge palm print covered the sky and shattered all spells. Runes intertwined and formed a net, trapping the 9 Remoteness Lord within. "You're courting death. How dare you behave so atrociously in my Grand Palace?" Whoosh, the space shattered, and the palaces in front of the Grand Palace were all destroyed. The huge palm appeared not far from the Nine Remoteness Lord's head. The Nine Remoteness Lord slapped the sky, and the reincarnation baleful chi instantly enveloped the entire Grand Palace. The huge palm print shattered, and the attacking divine power was swallowed by the reincarnation baleful chi. However, his huge palm was unstoppable as it slammed towards the Grand Palace. The huge palm of the Nine Remoteness Lord grew bigger and bigger. Eventually, it enveloped the entire Grand Palace. Two figures rushed out from the depths of the Grand Palace. They joined forces and charged towards the Nine Remoteness Lord. Heaven, earth, and spacetime were all in chaos. The domineering aura of the high gods made ordinary people despair. Boom! The two figures collided with the giant palm, and the giant palm crushed them into the ground as easily as crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. Boom! The aura of the earth soared into the Milky Way. The entire Grand Palace was turned into ruins. Even the back mountain was flattened. The two figures in ragged clothes were sent flying hundreds of meters away. They looked terrified, especially the white-haired old man. He was one of the founders of the Three Clear Divine Nation, the Three Clear High Gods. He recognized the Nine Remoteness Lord. The corners of his mouth twitched as he felt wronged. He had no idea how he offended this old monster. However, the other middle-aged man didn't seem to recognize the Nine Remoteness Lord. Although he was suppressed by the palm, it didn't affect his aura. He thought that he was knocked down because he was caught off guard. Subsequently, he flew into a rage and pulled out his sword. The entire space above the Grand Palace became his sword domain. He was the sword master. He wanted to control the Nine Remoteness Lord's life and death. Die. Whoosh! A sword radiance of the Nine Remoteness Lord. Shangqing High Deity was shocked as he hurriedly shouted, "Stop!" He is, however, the speed of the superior god was simply too fast. It was so fast that before he could finish his sentence, that person's sword had already arrived in front of the Nine Remoteness Master. The Nine Remoteness Master's deep eyes were like the cycle of reincarnation. He didn't even move when the opponent's sword was right in front of him. A look of disdain appeared on his vigorous face. The space in front of him shook, and the cycle of reincarnation appeared. The superior god priest's sword directly pierced through the cycle of reincarnation. Whoosh! The high-level god worshipper disappeared right in front of the Nine Remoteness Master. It disappeared without a trace, as if it had never appeared. The Shangqing High Deity was shocked and looked at the Nine Serenities Lord in disbelief. Only now did he understand the difference between the Nine Serenities Lord and the high-level deity. Esteemed Lord, who angered you? As long as you tell this kid, I will not show any mercy. Shangqing High God bowed and said without hesitation, "You are the one who provoked me." Bah! Boom! The Nine Remoteness Lord slapped Shangqing High Deity, followed by a kick. Shangqing High Deity did not dodge in time and was sent flying a few hundred meters away. Cough, cough, cough. Shangqing High Deity coughed dryly, unable to breathe. His face turned purple, and he rolled on the ground a few times before he stopped. Although he was angry, he had to suppress his anger and said helplessly, "Esteemed Lord, let's talk. I have been in seclusion all these years and did not deal with the mortal world. How could I have offended you? Let's talk after the fight." Boom! 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 The Nine Serenities Lord did not use any secret techniques at all. Shangqing High Deity did not dare to fight back and could only run. If he could not escape, he would be beaten up. Soon, the High Deity suffered more than 100 punches and a few hundred kicks. He was in a sorry state and kept screaming, "Senior, this is a misunderstanding." Shangqing High Deity was chased all the way, and the other superior gods did not dare to intervene. The Nine Serenities Lord chased Shangqing High Deity all the way to the southern mountain pass. Shangqing High Deity was beaten black and blue. An hour later, Shangqing High Deity arrived at the southern mountain pass. His clothes were ragged, and he did not look like a superior god at all. Once he arrived at the southern mountain pass, Wuyo, Qian Kuan, and Zhong Tian High Deity saw Shangqing and trembled. Shangqing High Deity stabilized himself and kept begging for mercy. They were not on the same level. It was like an adult dealing with a child. Begging for mercy from the 9 serenities, Lord, was not embarrassing at all. Your disciple bullied my disciple, so I bullied you. An old man like me is too embarrassed to deal with a child, so I can only deal with you. The 9 serenities, Lord said calmly. Shangqing High Deity heard this and immediately locked his gaze on Li Feng. It seemed like the beating he received today was all because of him. You bastard, what did you do? Shangqing High Deity asked angrily. Teacher, I was invited by God's organization to help them deal with Yi Qinghan of the Crazy Manor. I haven't done anything yet, but I scared your disciple, Emperor Yi. Li Feng had no choice but to tell the truth. You bastard! How many times have I taught you to restrain your killing intent? You didn't restrain yourself and caused me to be beaten up. Boom boom boom. Bang bang bang. Shangqing High Deity had never hit Li Feng before. In fact, he had never even lectured him. However, at this moment, he was so angry that he directly punched and kicked Li Feng. Li Feng saw how badly Shangqing High Deity was being beaten up and knew that he needed to vent his anger. Therefore, he did not dodge and took Shangqing High Deity's punches and kicks head-on. Slap. Shangqing High Deity gave Li Feng a vicious slap. A palm print instantly appeared on his face. Are you from the younger generation? You attacked a little girl, and a disciple of the esteemed deity. Where is your brain? Is the Sword God's Codex so attractive to you? Shangqing High Deity scolded angrily. Li Feng did not quibble or say anything. He felt a little regretful, but the benefits of the Sword God's Codex were too great. He could not resist the temptation. This old man is not interested in the way you teach your disciple. Now let's talk about compensation. If Li Feng did not suppress Yi Qinghan, no one from the Crazy Manor would have died. He was not the one who killed them, but they died because of him. If he was really from the younger generation, this old man would not say anything. However, he is clearly not. You have to bear this responsibility. The 9 Remoteness Master said coldly. Yes. This little one will definitely compensate you. Don't worry, esteemed deity. As long as the Crazy Manor makes a request, Scandinavia will definitely fulfill it. Shangqing High Deity repeatedly promised. Then revive the 2 people from my inner sect and Yang Ru from the Desolate God Institute. We don't need compensation. Emperor Yi stared at Shangqing High Deity with his clear eyes and said without any trace of politeness. Shangqing High Deity immediately looked at Emperor Yi and said helplessly, If you want to revive the people who died in battle, you should look for the esteemed deity. I believe that since the esteemed deity is here personally, you will definitely not completely destroy their souls. In other words, the 3 of them should still have a chance to reincarnate. This old man does not have the ability to do so. If it is really impossible, I can compensate you with some top-grade god crystals, godhoods, or even territory. Chapter 670. The Prime Clear High Deity did not dare to offend the 9 Remoteness Master. The 9 Remoteness Master's position in the High Deity Shrine was just like Li Feng in the Medium Deity Shrine. Wuyo and the other 2 had lost their composure. They kept begging for mercy and wanted to leave, but the 9 Remoteness Master was not willing to let them go. He had bullied the crazy sect for so long. The young people in the God's organization looked at the 3 high deities in horror. With the 9 Remoteness Master here, Li Feng would not be able to do anything. The god of gamblers had gone to find the 3 great deities. If the 3 great deities were here, these people would be tortured to death. Even if the three great deities did not attack, Yi Qinghan would be able to kill them all without Li Feng's suppression. The next morning, Yi Qinghan had been cultivating in the alternate space for 2 years. Finally, he could use the Shifang seal at will. He was still worried about the outside world, so he stepped out of the alternate space. Seeing the 9 remoteness master in his true form, he felt more confident. He was furious when he learned that Yen Yunbei, Zi Tian, and Yang Ru had died in the battle. The Blood Soul, and other disciples of the high deities wanted to leave. If they continued to fight, they would not gain anything. If they lost, they would be severely injured or even killed. The high deities behind them did not dare to settle the score with the 9 remoteness master. All of you, stay here obediently. Since you're here, let's finish this competition. You want to leave? Ask your master to come and pick you up. The 9 remoteness master said coldly. Blood Soul, and the others looked at each other in dismay. They could only secretly transmit messages to the superior gods behind them and explain the situation to them. Some of the superior gods did not even dare to meet the Lord of 9 Serenity. Some even abandoned their disciples on the spot. Only Blood Soul's master, the Chaos God, came. He was so humble that he did not look like a superior god at all. Don't give me that. I've been bored recently, so I'll play with you. The 9 remoteness master was domineering. He returned to the top of the mountain and poured wine into the air. A group of high deities stood aside like children who had done something wrong. High God Long Yuan had also come with a large amount of top-grade divine fruits and divine brews to curry favor with the 9 Serenities Lord. At this level, when faced with a matter of life and death, it didn't seem inappropriate to put aside his pride to curry favor with an old monster like 9 Serenities. The next morning, the god of gamblers brought the 3 masters of the wind and cloud leaderboard. No, he didn't bring them, he tied them up. He used a god-binding chain to tie their bracelets and dragged them over. Outside the southern mountains pass, it was dead silent. The wind and cloud 3 heavens were the 3 legends after Li Feng. Today, they were locked by their wrists and dragged here from the realm battlefield. Feng Yun 3 heavens was extremely angry. Although the god of gamblers was a superior god, they could not be humiliated like this. The 3 arrogant experts almost cursed out loud, especially Xian Yuantian. He was the legion commander of the Xianyuan Legion, and the god of gamblers had tied him up in front of the legion. How embarrassing! The god of gamblers didn't have it easy either. Laughing at the heavens had even shattered his divine robes. One had to admit that laughing at the heavens was powerful. As a peak intermediate god, he had shattered the robes of a superior god. This was an unsurpassable legend. Soon, the wind and cloud 3 heavens saw the situation clearly. This no man's land was lacking in resources. Normally, even intermediate gods rarely came here. Today, however, so many intermediate gods had gathered here. At least half of the mythological plane's top experts were here. Laughing at the heavens and the others had been invited by Yuanli before, so they immediately understood that there was someone behind the crazy manner. Otherwise, it would not have attracted so many superior gods. The god of gamblers dragged the 3 to the mountain peak and said to the 9 Serenities Lord with a mocking smile, I didn't let you down. I helped you invite the 3 of them here. Everyone looked at the god binding chains on laughing at the heavens and the others, and their mouths twitched. Was this the legendary invite? The 9 Serenities Lord looked at the 3 indifferently. With a wave of his hand, he shattered the god binding chains and said to the 3, The 3 of you helped me fight in the arena. You will be rewarded. Laughing at the heavens was unhappy. He had never been humiliated like this in his life. He immediately said, What if I don't fight? No one can refuse me. If you don't fight in the arena, I will beat you until you agree, the 9 Serenities Lord said with a cold smile. I don't believe that you can hide the truth from the masses. Laughing at the heavens said unhappily. Ha ha ha, I really can hide the truth from the masses. At least in this mythological plane, no one dares to compete with me. Am I right, little fellas? The 9 Serenities Lord looked at the superior gods beside him and asked calmly. You are right, Master. I will be the first to disagree with anyone who dares to compete with you. Long Yuan said in a low voice. Yes, yes, yes. The others agreed. Xian Yuantian raised his eyebrows. He was the successor of the Xian Yuan bloodline and recognized the 9 Serenities Lord. Although he had lost face, it was not necessarily a bad thing to meet the 9 Serenities Lord. He bowed and said, Senior, I am willing to do my best. Xian Yuantian is sensible, unlike your old ancestor who did not know the rules. I hung him in the turbulent layer of the dimensional battlefield for 100 years to wash away his anger, the 9 Serenities Lord said calmly. Xian Yuantian was speechless. The Xianyuan clan's old ancestor, Xianyuan Ao, had spoken rudely to the 9 Serenities Lord and wanted to snatch someone from the 9 Serenities plane. In the end, the 9 Serenities Lord had beaten him up and thrown him into the turbulent layer of the dimensional battlefield. This had alarmed the superior gods of many planes. Since then, no one dared to offend the 9 Serenities plane. Xianyuan Ao was not afraid of anyone except the 9 Serenities Lord. For hundreds of thousands of years, he would hide whenever he saw the 9 Serenities Lord. Laughing at the heavens and Panga Heaven still did not recognize the 9 Serenities Lord. They could not help but look at Xian Yuantian. Xian Yuantian did not dare to act rashly in front of the 9 Serenities Lord. He could only signal them with his eyes to agree for the time being. A wise man knew better than to fight when the odds were against him. Panga Heaven and Laughing at the Heavens had no choice but to agree. You think you are so great just because you have a superior god as your master? I believe you all know them. Beat them to death. Beat them until their parents can't recognize them, the 9 Serenities Lord said as he pointed at the Blood Soul, and the others. The 5 closed-door disciples of the superior gods shuddered. They wanted to run, but they did not dare to. They did not want to fight either. They stood on the spot and wanted to cry but had no tears. Li Feng followed behind the prime clear high god. He did not dare to join the younger generation. Yi Qinghan clenched his fists, took a deep breath, and adjusted his state of mind. His eyes were filled with murderous intent as he stared at the 90-plus experts of God's organization. He raised his saber and said in a stern voice, This is the beginning of a fight to the death. You all will be buried with Yen Yunbei and the others. God's organization was forced into a corner. The 3 superior gods looked at the 9 Serenities Lord and asked in a muffled voice, Esteemed Lord, since you insist on fighting, if we accidentally injure or kill your disciples, if you kill him, then so be it. If he dies, then blame it on his incompetence. Now, God's organization has sent 2 experts to kill him. Either you all become his whetstones, or you all obliterate him, the 9 Serenities Lord said as he slowly stood up. He wanted to sharpen Yi Qinghan and tap into Yi Qinghan's potential. Chapter 671. When the 3 high gods heard the 9 Remoteness Masters promise that he would not take responsibility for killing Yi Qinghan, they no longer concealed their murderous intent. Since he had offended Yi Qinghan, they might as well kill him. 100 experts were about the same. As for the Blood Soul and the Blood Soul, they could not fight because of the 3 Wind Cloud List experts. Anyone who kills Yi Qinghan will become my last disciple. I promise to nurture him into a high god. You don't have to worry about resources. High God Yin Kuan said coldly. Since he could not defeat the 9 Remoteness Master, he could only vent his anger on Yi Qinghan. However, the experts were not interested. Killing Yi Qinghan would earn the approval of the elders of God's organization, but what about the 9 Remoteness Master? The three elders had been humiliated so much that they could only pinch their noses and bear it. The 9 remoteness master said that he would not take revenge, but if he secretly killed them, who could escape? High God Een Kuan was furious when he saw that not only did no one step forward to challenge him, but they also took a step back. You can't run away. You have to fight in this arena. If no one wants to fight, I'll rank you one by one, the 9 remoteness master said indifferently. Hearing this, everyone was dispirited. They could not run away from this battle. However, 2 against 1 seemed easy. They were all invincible kings. Plus, they worked together to kill the enemy. It was easy. Yi Qinghan stood in the center, looking coldly at the crowd. His battle intent and murderous intent were getting stronger and stronger. Boom. Finally, someone made a move. Gemini sect's chief disciple, Wu Yong and Wu Lian, one male and one female, were twins of different sexes. The 2 of them were telepathically connected, and their attacks were unparalleled. They were the same type of people as Blood Soul and Blood Soul. However, they had joined the Gemini sect and cultivated the Chain City art. They knew when to advance and retreat, and their attacks and defenses were orderly. Their individual combat strength was already at the level of kings. When the 2 of them worked together, they were invincible. Wu Yong and his sister were both big men. They were at least 2 meters tall and looked like giants. Even Wu Lian was a woman. Her legs were as thick as a beast's and she was born with great strength. They both used twin hammers as weapons, each of which weighed 1,000 pounds. When they walked, they left behind footprints with each step. Yi Qinghan clenched his fist. Last time, Shattered World Mountain had participated in the rescue of Lin Yi, and there was already a grudge between them. There was no need to say anything more. He lifted his saber and slashed out. With a sweep of his saber, the void was sliced apart. Dragon blood roared, as the strength of his fleshly body was unprecedented. Heavy berserker slash. Whoosh! This slash seemed to have the power to split the heavens and earth apart. Li Feng's eyes flashed as he realized that Yi Qinghan was not as weak as he thought. At the very least, Yi Qinghan could sweep through all the experts below the top 5 of the wind cloud list. Wu Yong and Wu Lian did not need to make eye contact. One of them moved to the left and the other to the right, wielding their hammers as they attacked Yi Qinghan from both sides. Whoosh! 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 Space collapsed. If this hammer strike landed on any medium god priest, they would be knocked unconscious for a long time. The 2 cooperated seamlessly as they attacked Yi Qinghan without any difference. If it were anyone else, they would have to dodge and not take the attack head-on. If they blocked Wu Lian, they would not have the opportunity to block Wu Yong. However, Yi Qinghan actually danced his heavy dance in a circle. He opened and closed wide as he took the attack head-on. Boom! The saber cleaved down on Wu Yong's divine hammer. The shockwave shattered the heavens and earth as it sent Wu Yong flying. Yi Qinghan borrowed the force to soar into the sky. He dodged Wu Lian's divine hammer and countered with a saber strike. Hand's saber strike. Yi Qinghan did not turn his head. His saber beam seemed to have locked onto Wu Lian as it was filled with killing intent. Whoosh! The heavy dance howled as it went straight for Wu Lian's body. Wu Lian's hammer missed as her body involuntarily fell forward. Before she could stabilize herself, Yi Qinghan's saber had already arrived. No matter how fast her reaction was, it was difficult for her to block Yi Qinghan's attack. Yi Qinghan's speed was just too fast. He was so fast that there was no way to dodge. Hiss! 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 The saber slashed across Wu Lian's right arm, severing it. Wu Lian screamed as her right arm smashed forward with the divine hammer. However, her body slammed into the ground. Die for me! Whoosh! Yi Qinghan cleaved through the air as his saber beam split the ground. A deep ravine appeared in everyone's line of sight as it submerged Wu Lian. The 2's joint attack had been broken in 3 moves. An expert had fallen. Meanwhile, Wu Yong was sent flying several hundred meters away by Yi Qinghan's terrifying strength. Before he could regain his footing, Yi Qinghan had already killed his sister. Yi Qinghan, I'll kill you! Wu Yong's heart was filled with rage as he charged at Yi Qinghan with his twin hammers. Yi Qinghan's eyes narrowed as his killing intent soared to the heavens. He charged out from his divine sanctum and slashed at Wu Yong. Wu Yong's twin hammers smashed towards the center, wanting to shatter the heavy dance. However, Yi Qinghan twisted his waist and pressed down with his wrist. His speed suddenly increased by several times as he slashed down between the hammers, landing on Wu Yong's head. Poochie! Wu Yong's body was split into two as he died on the spot. Even his godhead was severed. His. 4 slashes had killed 2 young experts. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. This kind of battle prowess was not inferior to Xian Yanxue, who was ranked 4th on the wind cloud list. 9 Remoteness Master was not satisfied. He snorted coldly and said, 4 of you at once. If you still can't kill him, then 8 of you at once. Everyone's pupils constricted. They didn't know whether the 9 Serenities Lord was trying to nurture Yi Qinghan or kill him. The 4 experts appeared, but they were not telepathic. Although they were strong, they were fighting for themselves. They wanted to use each other as cannon fodder while they took the opportunity to launch a sneak attack. In the end, they were all defeated by Yi Qinghan. In less than an hour, the 4 experts were all killed by Yi Qinghan, while he only suffered some light injuries. All 8 of you attacked together. Heaven and Earth High God ordered the 8 of them to charge into the arena without 9 Remoteness Masters saying anything. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, the 8 experts joined forces. Having learned their lesson from the previous battle, they cooperated and attacked Yi Qinghan until he was forced to retreat again and again. Even though his defense was unparalleled, he still had to dodge. It was impossible for him to use his vital points to take on their attacks. These unparalleled experts were the elites of the younger generation. They were the chief disciples of the major sects. Yi Qinghan transformed into a war god. His killing intent soared to the sky. He wanted to avenge Yan Yunbei and the other 2. He wanted to kill all the younger generation of God's organization. He wanted God's organization to pay 100-fold. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, whoosh whoosh whoosh. The light of the blade and the shadow of the sword were soul-stirring. The slightest carelessness would cause the ground to be stained with blood. Yi Qinghan integrated the great Nirvana sword art into his blade. Together with the violent blade art, the 5 elements battle dragon, and the battle character formula, he swept across the 9 heavens with a single blade. Mad dragons slaying gods! Roar! Yi Qinghan transformed into a dragon and soared into the sky. His body was as fast as lightning and disappeared from everyone's sight. Then, he appeared behind one of the experts and killed him. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan disappeared after killing one of the experts. He used the law of space to the extreme to launch an assassination technique. He wanted to use Yan Yunbei's strongest secret technique to avenge him. A dagger appeared in Yi Qinghan's hand. The moment it appeared, it was a fatal blow. The throat of the expert was pierced and the aura of destruction destroyed all signs of life. The 8 experts did not even last an hour before they were all killed. Chapter 672. When Yi Qinghan faced 16 people at once, the top 3 experts on the wind cloud list were all moved. This combat strength was not much weaker than theirs. However, facing Li Feng, they still had no chance. After all, this existence was still a legend. He beat the young people of an era to the point that they did not dare to speak and had to lower their heads when they met. With these people as targets, Yi Qinghan's progress increased by leaps and bounds. He went from 1 to 2 to 1 to 16 and then to 4 victories. Finally, God's organization was scared. Yi Qinghan's strength seemed to be inexhaustible. Even now, he hadn't rested. Nine Remoteness Master did not know that Yi Qinghan had the primal chaos divinity source, so he chose to stop the fight. Instead, he asked the three experts of the wind cloud three heavens to fight. These three experts had been famous for a long time and were incomparably powerful. They could almost crush the last disciple of a high god. This was especially true for Laughing at the Heavens, who had not lost a single battle. He had crippled the blood soul and suppressed the blood soul. If it were not for the primal chaos high god's pleading and the nine Remoteness Masters' words, the two of them would have been crushed into pieces by Laughing at the Heavens. Laughing at the Heavens fought 3 battles in a row and suppressed 3 high god's disciples. The last one was directly crushed and his godhead was taken away. This was the first time he had been tied up with god-binding chains. Then, Pangu Heaven attacked and killed a high god's disciple. These disciples were all abandoned by the high god. They did not dare to face 9 Remoteness Master, so they gave up on their disciples. Pangu Heaven and Xian Yuantian did not hesitate to kill. The 5 experts were either suppressed or killed. There were only 30 people left. God's organization had less than 60 people left. This time, no one was willing to fight. Many of the foreign experts were crying and begging 9 Remoteness Master to leave. As for the foreign experts and God's organization members, they could not escape. Xian Yanshua joined the fight and killed 4 people. God's organization had 50 people left. The insane sect did not have many people left, but it was enough. The 50 people would rather die than fight. They kept retreating with despair in their eyes. Does it feel good to be bullied? Ah! I haven't been so happy in a long time. The 9 Remoteness Master laughed loudly. Ha ha ha! Wuyo, Qian Kuan, and Zhong Tian's faces turned purple. After this battle, the younger generation of God's organization would be cut off. At this moment, they couldn't care less about their reputation. They bowed to 9 Remoteness Master and begged him to show mercy. Supreme Venerable, please be magnanimous and forgive us this time. We are willing to compensate you and give you our land. The central heavenly deity said helplessly. Then what about my 1 million supreme grade divine crystals? Does it still count? The 9 Remoteness Lord asked indifferently. Qing Jingshan's expression flickered. He had to pay 500,000 supreme-grade treasures, not high-grade treasures, but supreme-grade treasures. If God's organization and the College of God took out 500,000 supreme-grade treasures, their foundation would drop, and they wouldn't even be able to stand up to other organizations. It seems like you want to renege on your debt, or you won't give up until there is only one person left. Then let's continue to fight until God's organization is annihilated. 9 Remoteness Master said sternly. If they continued to fight, they would be bullying them. However, when Kuang Zong was bullied, God's organization was happy. Now that they were being bullied, they understood how angry Kuang Zong was. When Kuang Zong learned that Yen Yunbei and the other souls had been saved by the 9 Remoteness Master and that they could be reincarnated at the very least, they suppressed their sadness and became extremely excited. Looking at God's organization's expression, they wanted to beat them up again and kill these 50 people as well. If God's organization wanted to train another batch of elites, it would take another 3,000 years. Alright, we will pay back the 1 million supreme-grade divine crystals as soon as possible. We will not renege on our debt. The central heavenly deity said helplessly. Ha 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 ha! I have finally won once. I am not the god of gamblers. The happiest person was not Kuang Zong, but the god of gamblers. He had gambled his entire life and finally won once. One could see how excited he was. Since God's organization had compromised, Yi Qinghan could not be bothered to kill them anymore. Now that God's organization was defeated, Kuang Zong would have a chance to develop. There was no benefit in forcing them into a dead end, so Yi Qinghan nodded and agreed. However, the Snow Tribe's great elder had a bitter expression. He glared at Xianyenshu and said, "Since the competition is over, please return Shui to the Snow Tribe." What? What did you say? Xianyenshu raised his eyebrows and hugged Shui. He said domineeringly, "She is already mine. She has nothing to do with the Snow Tribe." Shui-er's face turned red. Her godhead was sealed, so she could not resist. However, logically speaking, since she had lost, her life should be decided by Xianyenshu. "You? What do you want?" the Snow Tribe's great elder asked angrily. "I just want to marry her. However, it has nothing to do with your Snow Tribe." Xianyenshu's tone was serious. "No. Shui cannot be married off." The great elder refused without hesitation. The snow god physique was rarely married off. It was rare for one to appear even in 100,000 years. As long as she was nurtured well, the Snow Tribe would have a high god priest. How could they allow Shui to marry off? Tsk. You don't seem to understand the situation. When you sent Shui out, you should have understood that once she lost, she would no longer be a member of the Snow Tribe. "I can do whatever I want," Xianyenshu said disdainfully. "You can come and snatch her," Yi Qinghan said calmly. "Snatch? Snatch Shui from the crazed manor? That would depend on one's ability. Without a high god priest, there was no way he could fight against the crazed manor. If a high god attacked, the 9 remoteness master would definitely kill him. Let's go home and get married." Xianyenshu hugged Shui and turned to leave. The crazed manor was decorated with lanterns and banners. The 9 remoteness master was there personally. Even the god of gamblers was there to witness the marriage. Regardless of whether Shui agreed or not, Xianyenshu forcefully went through with the wedding ceremony. Shui wanted to cry, but no tears came out. She couldn't use her divine power, let alone escape. She looked at Xianyenshu with tears in her eyes and said angrily, "Hurry up and undo my restrictions." "Undo the restrictions, and you're not allowed to run. You're going to sleep with me," Xianyenshu said seriously. "Fine. I won't run." Shui-er's eyes flashed cunningly. She snorted in her heart and thought, "Little girl, I'll kill you." Xianyenshu was confident that Shui wouldn't be able to escape. Even if she did, she wouldn't be able to escape from the crazed manor. Shui was wearing a flawless white robe. She was perfect like a fairy. Her deep eyes shone as she said softly, "Since we're going to sleep together, there should be wine. Go and get some wine. We'll have a good start. At least I don't have any ill feelings towards you. Our relationship can be cultivated. Drinking wine under the moonlight shows our spirit." Hearing this, Xianyenshu immediately ran back to the crazed manor's main hall and asked Yi Qinghan for the best drunken god brew. Inside the room, Shui took out a bag of medicine from her yin-yang ring. It was the aphrodisiac powder, the #1 aphrodisiac in the mythological plane. It was said that 1 gram of it could make a dragon go crazy. She was going to kill Xianyenshu. Chapter 673. The gates of the southern mountain pass were wide open, welcoming all the heroes of the world. No one dared to provoke the southern mountain pass, and no one dared to bully the weak. The crazed manor's territory was decorated with lanterns and banners. It was a scene that could not be seen in the outside world. Yi Qinghan arranged for the injured to be healed in a separate dimension. Then, he and Emperor Yi dealt with the aftermath of the auction. At night, Xianyenshu and Shui came to a lake in front of the crazed manor. Snow fell, crushing the branches, and the surface of the lake was frozen. Shui was wearing a snow-white robe, and the wind and snow collided with the sky, creating a different melody. Xianyenshu looked at Shui-er's back, and his heart was inexplicably restless. Although Shui was teasing him during the competition, he believed it now. "Are you really the one I'm destined to be with?" Did you and I reincarnate just for this moment? Can we really remember each other when we shed tears? Xian Yinxue, who had always been unrestrained, looked at Shui Er's back with infatuation. She was so perfect and flawless. No wonder she was recognized as a goddess in the mythological realm. Shui Er picked up a drop of snow with her slender fingers. She tapped the ground and floated in the air. She was surprised to see that the people of Quang Manor looked like a happy family. They were even more united than the Snow Clan. Quang Manor was a huge manor. It was much more complicated than a sect. They should be fighting and scheming against each other. Why was it that they were more united than a sect? Shui Er looked at the crazed manor's territory, and her heart slowly changed. Maybe this is Yi Qinghan's unity, and the courage of the crazed manor? To be able to reach this step, one must first have a great image. One must be brave enough to take the lead and treat everyone as family. Only then would one be respected by the world and be supported by all the sects and clans in the territory. The army of Quang Zong was extremely dignified and orderly. They did not disturb the people and did not bully them. If anyone was in trouble, they would not hesitate to help. They were deeply loved by the people of Quang Zong. This wasn't just the case in this part of the crazed manor. Every part of the manor was like this. Yi Qinghan wasn't the only one who was able to achieve this. It was the righteousness of the entire crazed manor that was guiding its people. Shui was shocked. She had been disgusted by Quang Zong's arrogance, but now, her attitude towards Quang Zong and Xian Yinxue had changed. Xian Yinxue quietly followed behind her. As the saying goes, haste makes waste. Once she finished walking around and changed her mind, she would drink this jar of drunken god wine. Then, she would be his. Yi Qinghan was in favor of evil Nian Shui taking share. Share's talent was destined by the heavens. As long as she was nurtured by a superior god and given enough resources, she would definitely become a superior god. Therefore, he ordered everyone in Quang Zong to cooperate with Xian Yinxue to take Share down and conquer her heart. It was winter, and there was no need for the path of snow. Heavy snow fell and piled up like mountains. Lolan's blade sent out 100,000 soldiers and formed a huge heart-shaped formation. An arrow pierced the heart and pointed at Share. No matter how she changed her position, the army would follow. Share was amused. She covered her mouth and smiled. "Madam, why don't we have a drink under the moonlight?" Xian Yinxue grinned and took out Yi Qinghan's drunken god wine. It was very strong. What woman couldn't it handle? He could push her down if she was drunk. Share's fingers clasped together, and the ripples of amorous love appeared in her palm. She smiled gently and said, "You're quite considerate to arrange such a show. Since that's the case, I can't not give you face. I heard that your 9 heavens evil sword art has reached the great perfection realm. It's swift and fierce, and it can shake the 9 heavens. I've never seen it before. Show it to me, and I'll drink this jar of drunken god wine with you." Share reached out and took the jar. "I can't let you get away with it. Today I'll make you cry first." When Xian Yinxue heard this, he knew that this was the best time to show off. Whoosh! The vanquishing evil sword was unsheathed, and the sword chi shattered the snow and stirred the mountains and rivers. Without moving, a snow dragon was formed, and it roared for thousands of miles. Whoosh! Whoosh! Xian Yinxue's elegant figure was incomparably carefree. With a shake of his hand, 3 green lotuses appeared. The sword chi was evil. The sword chi was not only swift and fierce, but it was also beautiful. It was as smooth as flowing water, and the army on both sides were mesmerized by it. 9 heavens evil sword. The evil chi soared to the sky, and the sword chi soared to the clouds. The sky could be seen. The great Tao roared, and strange phenomena appeared. Share looked at Xian Yinxue's sword, and her eyes flashed cunningly. She opened the seal of the drunken god wine, and directly stuffed 5 grams of ripples of amorous love into the jar. She shook the jar with her jade-like hand, and an even more unruly smile appeared on her face. After a set of swordsmanship, Xian Yanxue laughed heartily. He took the wine jug and brought Shui to the lake in front of the Kuang Zone. He took out some delicacies and spirit fruits, which looked different under the moonlight. Cher secretly swallowed a golden pill and drank with Xian Yanxue. The moment the strongest wine entered their stomachs, a warm current rushed to their limbs and bones, covering the power of the ripples of amorous love. Xian Yanxue thought that this was the drunken god wine, and could not help but praise it. Cher was very generous, and she kept drinking with him. How could Xian Yanxue fall behind? He drank 3 bowls in a row, and the boiling blood in his body surged. His body reacted, and his face turned red. Continue drinking. A man can't say no, don't be a coward. Cheers. Cher was dizzy from the wine. This wine was too strong, and she poured another bowl for Xian Yanxue. Xian Yanxue did not expect this wine to have the strongest ripples of amorous love. After drinking 4 bowls of drunken god wine in a row, even a dragon would be impulsive, let alone a human. Roar. Xian Yanxue's bestial nature was unleashed, and his eyes were bloodshot. Shui smiled gently and leaned into Xian Yanxue's arms. As soon as she was in his arms, she struck 18 major acupoints on Xian Yanxue's chest, sealing his godly power. His divine power was sealed, but the medicine was too strong, and he could not stop it. The feeling of not being able to get what he wanted almost drove him crazy. He felt like his body was about to explode. TSK, how does it feel to be teased? Cher asked playfully. Xian Yanshue's brain was about to turn into paste, and he realized that he had been teased by Cher. Go down and take a cold shower to calm down. Cher jumped up lightly, and with a wave of her hand, the thick layer of ice on the lake broke, and Xian Yanxue, who was filled with lust, was splashed with ice water. Ah! Xian Yanxue felt like he was going crazy. His lower body was swollen, and his muddled mind was cleared by the ice water. Seeing Cher laughing in the air, he was so angry that his teeth itched. He had teased others all his life, and in the end, he still fell into Cher's hands. What a tragedy! Chapter 674. In a world of ice and snow, Xian Yanxue was so angry that he laughed. This feeling was too good. He had been drugged with the strongest aphrodisiac, drank the strongest drunken god wine, and had the most beautiful girl in front of him, but he could only bathe in snow. His blood was boiling, and he wanted to freeze the aphrodisiac. Was there anything more miserable than this? He Shuer clapped her hands and laughed. Thinking about how she had been teased in public, she became playful and shouted, "Look, someone is running naked!" Whoosh! The blades of Lulan did not disperse. They swarmed over, and a total of 30,000 people surrounded the lake. They pointed at Xian Yanxue and discussed. Xian Yanshue's head exploded, and he jumped into the lake. How could he dare to come out? Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi ran out. Seeing Xian Yanxue being played so miserably, they couldn't help but laugh. Even the usually calm Emperor Yi was about to cry. Many people in the crazy manor heard the news and came out of seclusion, especially those who were familiar with Xian Yanxue. It was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to see Xian Yanxue make a fool of himself. He had always been unrestrained and played with others. Today, he suffered such a big loss. It was unlikely that something like this would happen again in the future. Xian Yanxue hid in the water. Because he had no divine power, he couldn't breathe. He could only come out of the water to take a breath. However, when he saw that everyone was familiar with him, and some of the older generation experts who had not left to explore the crazy manor, they were all attracted by Shui-Er's cry. Seeing the arrogant Xian Yanxue, they almost laughed out loud. They took out their image stones and recorded Xian Yanshue's current appearance. Brother Yi, hurry up and undo my seal. Xian Yanxue felt like he was going crazy. Tomorrow, he would become famous, perhaps even more famous than Li Feng. He would become a legend that could never be broken. Don't let him freeze for an hour, and the aphrodisiac should be enough. Otherwise, you will have to take responsibility. Shui rudely stopped Yi Qinghan. Thinking about the amount of aphrodisiac in Xian Yanshua's body, even 10 women might not be able to resist it. She didn't want to suffer. Brother Yi, I helped you a lot. I'm so embarrassed. Quickly, help me undo the restriction. Xian Yanshue was shivering from the cold, but the blood in his body seemed to be boiling. His eyes were red, but he still had some rationality. It meant that his willpower was too terrifying. He hadn't shown his full strength in the arena. Ha 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 ha. I'm dying of laughter. I think you're so cute. The divine bird flew out of his body and mocked Xian Yanshue. With the divine bird and Shui working together, Xian Yanshue fell into the lake and didn't resurface for a long time. Yi Qinghan's expression changed slightly. He coughed dryly and said, "Everyone, let's disperse. There's nothing to see." Pfft. In the end, Yi Qinghan couldn't hold back and burst out laughing. He reached out and pulled Xian Yanshue out of the lake. He found that Xian Yanshue's blood was about to explode. He could only look at Shui and throw Xian Yanshue to her, saying, "Either let him explode and die, or be his wife." After saying that, Yi Qinghan pretended to be dignified and told everyone to leave. He took Emperor Yi back to the auction house and received the guests. 9 Remoteness Lord took Great Monarch Shura back to 9 Remoteness and promised to let Yen Yunbei and the others reincarnate into the crazed sect. As for when, he didn't say. After this battle, although the crazed sect had been humiliated in the beginning, their time to grow had been reduced by several times. A large number of young talents were rewarded. Half of them were given to the army, and the other half to the outer sect. As for the inner sect, priority was given to them. The outer sect of the crazed sect became the most popular sect in the mythological realm. Countless elites and geniuses flocked there. Even if they didn't want to enter the inner sect, they still wanted to enter the outer sect. There were even many large families that relied on their connections to invite people to send their disciples to the outer sect. Entering the outer sect was equivalent to relying on the crazed sect. Relying on the crazed sect was equivalent to relying on Yi Qinghan. Being protected by Yi Qinghan was equivalent to being protected by 9 Remoteness Lord. In the future, if anyone dared to bully their family, they would just have to say, "Our elites are in the outer sect of the crazed sect." Even God's organization would tremble. However, it was impossible to join the outer sect of the crazed sect by relying on connections. Talent and character were the most important. Otherwise, even the elites sent by Scandinavia couldn't join the outer sect. At this moment, Shui suddenly felt that she had been caught in a trap of her own making. Could Xian Yanshue withstand such a large amount of aphrodisiac? She couldn't just let Xian Yanshue die, right? She didn't have much love for Xian Yanshue, but at least she didn't have any ill feelings for him. Plus, they had already bowed to the heavens and earth, and were only a step away from consummating their marriage. They were already a veritable pair of cultivation partners. At this moment, she deeply liked the atmosphere of the crazed sect. There was no scheming and no messy matters. It was easy to get along with these people, so she couldn't let Xian Yanshue die. Humph, bastard, I've let you off easy in the end. Shui rushed back to her room with the unconscious Xian Yanshue and slapped him awake. Xian Yanshue's breathing quickened. His eyes were full of greed and evil. His blood boiled and his bestial nature was unleashed. He directly tore at Shui-Er's robe, but his divine power was sealed. How could he tear it with his physical body alone? Xian Yanshue had never been so mad. Shui-Er had already given up resisting. He couldn't tear her robe. His hands trembled as he looked at Shui-Er pitifully. Shuer snorted and opened her jade-like hands, motioning for Xian Yanxue to help her take off her robe. 1,000,000 words will be omitted below. It is not suitable for children. The website is not easy. Fill in the blanks yourself. Although it was a vast expanse of snow outside the Kuang Manor, there was a hint of spring in the air. Occasionally, there would be a soft moan that would cause the world to tremble. That night, Xian Yanshue's name spread throughout the 3 god kingdoms, and even the wretch bloodline. The clan elder was so angry that he almost wanted to capture him himself. However, when he learned that Xian Yanxue was with the disciple of the 9 Serenities Lord, Yi Qinghan, he didn't interfere. It was a long night, but it was as fast as lightning. The sky was bright, and the people of Kuang's sect had already started clearing the snow in preparation for the New Year celebration. Every winter, there would be a divine calendar New Year celebration, and it was very lively. Kuang's sect was preparing for the first auction in order to attract tourists and open an auction house. Alas, it's a pity that I went to bed early last night and missed the famous Lord Xian Yanxue running naked through the snow sea. That's right. I heard that an image stone was sold for a sky-high price. However, it seems that most of it was destroyed by Kuang's sect. What a pity. Xian Yanxue came out of Kuang's sect at that moment. He was timid, wearing a cloak. He didn't dare to meet anyone. Chapter 675. Oh? Isn't this Lord Xian Yanxue, ranked 4th on the wind cloud list? Everyone, come and take a look. In the quiet morning, a sharp voice broke the tranquility around the crazy manor. The divine bird suddenly roared when it saw Evil Thoughts Shui approaching the auction house with its head lowered. Xian Yanxue staggered and almost fell to the ground. She glared at the divine bird. This bastard is too despicable. Whoosh. In an instant, the auction house was surrounded by people. Most of them were people sweeping the snow, and they looked curiously at Xian Yanxue. Xian Yanxue was so angry that her teeth hurt. She slapped the divine bird away and rushed into the auction house. She found Yi Qinghan and shouted, "I'm going to kill you." "Forget it. I've already taken back all the image stones I recorded last night. None of them have leaked out. You should be content." Yi Qinghan held back his laughter. "Ah!" Xian Yanxue patted her chest and screamed. She loved Shui to the extreme, so how could she bear to beat her up? She couldn't vent her anger, so she could only roar and scratch the wall. Yi Qinghan patted Xian Yanshue's shoulder and said seriously, "You're a celebrity now. I'm going to use the celebrity effect to start the auction house's first battle, so what?" Xian Yanxue had a bad feeling when she saw Yi Qinghan's expression. "I'm going to auction an image stone of you. It'll attract a lot of customers." Yi Qinghan waved an image stone in his hand. Xian Yanxue immediately went berserk and snatched the image stone away from him. "I still have a lot. Take your time." Yi Qinghan didn't care. He had bought all the image stones at the lowest price yesterday, and it was all Xian Yanshue's bad luck. Xian Yanxue raised her head and howled. She then looked at Yi Qinghan tenderly and said in a hoarse voice, "I used up all my luck to meet you. From now on, my luck won't be good anymore." "No. You've confessed to the wrong person. You've used up all your luck because you met Shui," Yi Qinghan said calmly. Xian Yanxue flailed her arms and legs, not knowing what to do. Yi Qinghan held back his laughter as he patted Xian Yanshue's shoulder and gestured for him to look behind him. "Don't worry, I'm not really going to auction it off. We'll just buy it back when the time comes. Just name your price." Xian Yanxue turned around and looked at Shui in her snow-white robes. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Shui, you've made me suffer," Xian Yanxue said, feeling wronged. "What did you say?" Shui glared at him and asked coldly. "Ah, you're so nice." Xian Yanxue immediately changed her tone. She no longer had the awe-inspiring aura of a top 4 ranker. "That's more like it," Shui humphed and ignored Yi Qinghan. She turned around and walked past the two of them towards Emperor Yi. Emperor Yi smiled as he looked at Shue-er's pure and holy appearance. Was God's organization so generous? They sacrificed one person and gave them 1,000,000 high-grade divine crystals. Coupled with a firm promise from the crazy manor, the Yang family was worth it. Moreover, Yang Ru didn't really die. His soul was taken away by the 9 Serenities Master, so he still had a chance to reincarnate. There was still half a month before the auction, and many people had already traveled long distances to the crazy manor to auction their treasures. In order to attract customers, Yi Qinghan didn't just take out the image stone of Xian Yanxue running naked. That was just a gimmick. They had to rely on real treasures. What could be considered a real treasure? Manor master level secret techniques were considered, and divine cores were considered. However, the most important thing was to attract superior gods to sell and buy treasures. Yi Qinghan looked at the Berserk Saber core and couldn't bear to sell the Chaos Mana. It was a life-saving item, but other than that, he didn't seem to have anything else to attract superior gods. Forget it, I can't force it. Let's take it slow. There will always be a chance. Who knows, I might be able to attract some customers to auction their treasures. Yi Qinghan thought for a moment and decided to auction the Great Nirvana sword technique. Once it was sold, he would also sell 3 of the strongest divine cores of the younger generation. He would only sell 3 divine cores of Junzi's K and Duanmu Chun. The rest would be left for the crazy manor to develop. Yi Qinghan announced the treasures that the crazy manor would be auctioning. First, they had to attract experts at the manor master level. There weren't many manor masters, and powerful families all wanted to produce a top-tier existence in their clan. Refining divine cores was the fastest way. Once the crazy manor announced that they would be selling Junzi's K and Duanmu Chun's divine cores, it immediately attracted a large number of families. Emperor Yi and a few appraisers had been very busy recently. A large number of treasures had been shipped in continuously. As long as they entered the crazy manor's territory, they didn't have to worry about being robbed. Yi Qinghan's policy was correct. They had attracted some top-tier divine treasures. If they could use them, they would sell them internally. If they couldn't use them, they would auction them off. With an auction house, they didn't have to worry about resources. Only with resources could they support the crazy manor's operations. The crazy manor's territory was filled with people. The inns were packed, and all kinds of businesses were bustling. The elites of the world had gathered. It was almost the end of the year, but this didn't dampen the enthusiasm of the heroes. Chapter 676. No one dared to stop the rise of the Quang clan. The Quang clan did not expand their territory, apart from the Lawless Land and some of the Mu clan cities. They surrounded the entrances to the Endless Plains. The Quang clan started building the World Suppressing Pass and the North Guard Pass to form a line with the South Guard Pass, sealing off the Quang clan's territory and the entrances to the Endless Plains. A large group of experts arrived at the 3 passes and entered the Quang clan's territory. Flying was forbidden in the Quang clan's territory. Those who broke the rules would be expelled forever, while those who broke the rules would be killed on the spot. The Quang clan's outer sect moved to the World Suppressing Pass to guard the entrance. The outer sect's patriarch was Lin Wutian, and Stan Wuxia cooperated with him. No one dared to offend them. The ancient massacre god moved to the North Guard Pass, led by Di Longtian, Yi Feng, and Zhan Chuanxiu. The North Guard Pass was at the front line of the Lawless Land. It was a great place for training. The ancient massacre god was improving rapidly, and had abundant resources. Monarch realm experts were popping up like bamboo shoots after a rain. Xia Qiue recruited the godly bird into the realm of beasts to recruit godly beasts and mutated beasts that were suitable as mounts for the realm of beasts. Lu Aotian did not want the blade of Lulan to lose, so he increased the intensity of the training by 10 times. Only the fittest would survive. Those with weaker talents would be eliminated and become the guards of the cities. The streets of the Quang clan were crowded with people. Many people were struggling to find an inn, but someone saw a business opportunity. It was the Xingyang Trading Company, a business tycoon in the mythical plain. The prince of the Xingyang Trading Company had come in person to meet Yi Qinghan. He was hoping to buy some land to build inns, restaurants, and shop. Naturally, Yi Qinghan was more than happy to have the Righteous Sun Trading Company join the construction of Quang Manor. After negotiating the annual taxes and the price of the land, Yi Qinghan rented the intersection between the Southern Mountain Pass and the Mu Manor to the Righteous Sun Trading Company. This place wasn't suitable for farming. There were mountains and rivers, and it was very remote. It was suitable for building houses, residences, and shops. The Crown Prince of the Righteous Sun Trading Company inspected the area and decided to rent it for 1,000 years. The Righteous Sun Trading Company had the priority to renew the lease, and they began construction on the same day. The Zhengyang Special Commercial District developed rapidly, and the Guangzhou was very cooperative. They mobilized their people to build the commercial district, and the wages were far more than what they could get from taking the risk. Tens of thousands of houses, hundreds of inns, and tens of thousands of guest rooms were built in just 2 days. All of the houses were made of natural wood, and their fragrant scent filled the air. The interior decoration was a walk in the park for the Xingyang Trading Company. In just 5 days, the Xingyang Commercial District had begun its operations, and a large number of powerhouses became the main consumer force. The natives of the Guangzhou Manor had the priority to rent the houses in the Xingyang Commercial District. This was also one of the benefits that Yi Qinghan had negotiated. He had to first enrich his own people, and then others. With a business tycoon joining the Guangzhou Manor officially prospered. The closer they got to the auction house, the more people there were in the Guangzhou Manor's territory. The Xingyang Commercial District had appeared at the right time, and they were making a lot of money. Just as Yi Qinghan was counting the deity crystals, a guard rushed in and said that an expert had come to visit. Yi Qinghan asked curiously, "Who is it?" "Lord Guangzhou, I don't know either. He said that he used to be from the Endless Plains, and he hopes that you can help," the guard said respectfully. Someone from the Endless Plains? Could he be one of the great emperors in the past? Yi Qinghan was shocked. Which of the great emperors in the past was not in existence with outstanding military achievements? They were people who were willing to sacrifice their lives for the Endless Plains. "Hurry and invite him in," Yi Qinghan said hurriedly. "Also, invite Stan Huangtian. Tell him to come see me." Stan Huangtian was an ancient great emperor, so he should have some understanding of the savage era. Outside the Crazy Mansion auction house, a middle-aged man with silver-white hair was standing straight like a javelin. His eyes were deep and resolute, but there was a hint of anxiety and helplessness in them. Back in the Endless Plains, he had looked down on all living beings, but in the Middle Plains, he had been sharpened to the point that his edges had been polished. His name was Wenshang, Great Emperor Wenshang. He was somewhat similar to Uncle Wen. At the very least, his arrogant gaze was almost the same. "Lord Guangzhou invites you in." The guard very politely led Great Emperor Wenshang into the VIP area of the auction house. Yi Qinghan personally believed that Great Emperor Wenshang looked familiar the moment he saw him. After pondering for a long time, he thought of Uncle Wen's child. He frowned and asked, "Fellow Taoist, is your surname Wen?" Great Emperor Wenshang was stunned. He did not expect Yi Qinghan to know him the first time they met. He quickly nodded and said, "I am Wenshang, known as Great Emperor Wenshang in the Endless Plains. I am an ancient great emperor. I wonder if Lord Guangzhou has heard of me? So it is you. Please come in." One of your descendants is still cultivating in the outer sect of the Guangzong manor. Yi Qinghan was overjoyed. He did not expect great Emperor Wenshang to come to the mythical plane instead of Tao assimilation. Since Lord Guangzong knows me, I will not hide anything. I am here this time to beg Lord Guangzong for help to save my Wen clan in the mythical plane. Great Emperor Wenshang did not enter the room. Instead, he stated his purpose at the door. Yi Qinghan was shocked. Wenshang was a medium god priest. Even if his combat power was not as strong as Guangzong, it should be close. Could there be someone who could make things difficult for the Wen clan? Lord Guangzong, please take action and bring my clan's descendant out of the Broken World Mountain. I am willing to lead my clan to pledge loyalty to the Guangzong manor. Wenshang bowed and pleaded. The Broken World Mountain was an internal force of God's organization. Wait a moment. I will find a few people to go with me. Yi Qinghan quickly found Xian Yanxue and Shui. He then said to Great Emperor Wenshang, Senior, please lead the way. Along the way, Great Emperor Wenshang explained the situation. It turned out that after Great Emperor Wenshang went to the mythical plane, he traveled all the way and settled down in the Broken World Mountain. He married and had children. After more than 100,000 years of development, he developed into a decent clan. However, he was suppressed by the Broken World Mountain. Whenever a talented girl was born, she would be forcefully snatched away by the Broken World Mountain's disciples. If the Wen clan's elite disciples were born, they would be assassinated and suppressed by the Broken World Mountain's disciples. It was very difficult for them to grow. These years, the Broken World Mountain was getting more and more overboard. Not only did they bully the Wen clan, but they also did the same to other clans. If they were light, they would be suppressed. If they were heavy, they would be exterminated. The Broken World Mountain was the dominant force. Many forces wanted to migrate and leave such a force. However, the Broken World Mountain did not agree. If they wanted to leave, they would be killed. Sects and clans without any background could only endure. If they could not endure it, they would take the risk to escape. However, those who could successfully escape were almost negligible. Those who were caught would die miserably. When Wenshang found out that the Guangzong manor came from the Endless Plain, he rushed over to ask for help. Yi Qinghan was very angry. However, Xian Yanxue and Shui were already used to it. Other forces were usually like this, including the Snow Clan. They would suppress the clans and clans under them. They only wanted to be the dominant force. Not many forces would be like the Guangzong manor, taking the initiative to help other clans grow. Chapter 677. The Broken World Mountain was located at the border of the Myth Continent. It was a desolate place with a towering mountain that almost pierced through the heavens. Rubble was everywhere and the nearby mountain ranges were undulating. It was close to the extreme north and was about to be buried by the snow. The living beings were listless and the streets were deserted. All the major clans and sects were seeking survival in this dangerous place. Even if it was just a little bit of resources, they would fight until their heads bled. The true wealth and resources were in the hands of the Broken World Mountain. The smaller clans and sects were struggling desperately and had a hard time developing. Yi Qinghan and company were led by Heavenly Emperor Wenshang. After 3 days, they arrived at the territory of the Broken World Mountain. The army of the Broken World Mountain quickly stopped Wenshang and shouted sternly, "Wenshang, you actually left the Broken World Mountain without reporting to the sect. Are you trying to rebel? The young mountain lord has ordered us to capture you. Are you going to follow us or do you need us to take action?" Wenshang didn't expect that the other party would get the news after he sneaked out for a few days. He couldn't help but worry about the Wen clan. He said solemnly, "I only went out for a tour. Isn't the Broken World Mountain making a big fuss over a small issue? My Wen clan didn't do anything that violated the rules of the Broken World Mountain. What right does the young mountain lord have to capture me? Do we need a reason to capture you? You are suspected of betrayal, and this alone is enough to arrest your entire clan. Now that the one clan has been arrested, if you don't want to implicate your clan, you'd better behave yourself, a major said coldly. You guys. Heavenly Emperor Wenshang was burning with rage, but he was helpless. He could only turn to Yi Qinghan for help. Where is the Broken World Mountain? Bring us there. Don't worry. If one of the Wen clan dies, I will bury the young lord of the Broken World Mountain with them. If 10 of them die, I will bury the mountain lord of the Broken World Mountain with them. Yi Qinghan said coldly. What big words. Do you think you are a superior god priest? The major was disdainful. He waved his hand and mobilized the army. He shouted sternly, Go! Take down this disrespectful B******. Boom! Yi Qinghan waved his saber. His heavy saber radiance and his aura surged to the sky. The 10,000-strong army was completely stunned, especially the major general, who was sent flying back thousands of meters. His reaction speed was beyond anything he had ever experienced. Yi Qinghan. Even though the major had never seen Yi Qinghan before, he knew that 7 feet berserk was capable of shattering heaven and earth. Who would dare to act rashly in front of him? It's good that you know. Scram. Yi Qinghan was disdainful. He could wipe out an army like this by himself. They would not be able to withstand a single blow. If the Quang Manor's army were to charge in, 1,000 of them would be able to crush an army of 10,000. How could the major dare to stop Yi Qinghan? Even a 3-year-old child knew about the rumors surrounding the insane manor. Thus, he led his army and fled into the distance, not even daring to look back. Yi Qinghan's group of 4 quickly rushed towards the Broken World Mountain's entrance. The Broken World Mountain occupied the most prosperous area of the territory. It was incomparably huge, even bigger than the insane manor. Its disciples were arrogant, and people from other factions would lower their heads and take a detour. Shuer was wearing a snow-white robe. Following beside Xian Yanxue, the 4 of them quickly passed through the city and entered the main city. The group of silk pants from the Broken World Mountain were attracted by Shuer's peerless beauty. Seeing Wenshang in front of them, they thought that the 3 of them were from the Wen clan. They immediately rushed over, wanting to tease them. Oh, Wenshang, is this girl from your Wen clan? Are you interested in becoming in-laws with my Broken World Mountain? A young expert stretched out his hand to grab Shuer's face. Xian Yanxue finally found a target to vent her evil fire. She pulled out her sword and slashed wildly, removing all the bones in that person's body. There was not even a trace of flesh. It was even more terrifying than death by 1,000 cuts. Courting death. You dare to attack my Broken World Mountain. Swish, swish. You dare to tease my woman. I will dig up your ancestral graves. Xian Yanxue was furious. She said to Wenshang, Bring me to the Broken World Mountain to play. Why can't I vent my anger? With Xian Yanxue around, the Broken World Mountain was definitely out of luck. For the past 2 days, Xian Yanshue's mood was extremely depressed. Wherever she went, she would hear people talking about her running around naked. She had lost all her face. Sometimes, she even wanted to smash her head into a wall to end it. In the end, even Shuer felt embarrassed, feeling that she had gone overboard. Heavenly Emperor Wenshang brought the 3 of them as they sped past the main city and entered the outer region of the Broken World Mountain. Whoever provoked Xian Yanxue would be unlucky. Killing them would be the easiest punishment, but not dying from 1,000 cuts would be the most terrifying punishment. Yi Qinghan didn't even need to do anything. Instead, he allowed Xian Yanxue to vent her anger. If anyone from the Broken World Mountain looked at him, they would suffer her revenge. Very quickly, a group of experts rushed out from within the Broken World Mountain. There were mid-level god priests who didn't recognize Yi Qinghan, but they recognized Xian Yanxue and Shuer. They couldn't help but angrily say, "Wen Shang, how dare you?" Do you think you can do whatever you want just because you've curried favor with these two? Xian Yanxue, this isn't your evil faction. Don't be so arrogant. Otherwise, we will suppress you. The evil faction can't say anything. Everyone from the Broken World Mountain was enraged. They surrounded Yi Qinghan and the others, their eyes filled with killing intent. Take them down. Kill anyone who dares to resist. But don't hurt Fairy Shuer. She was captured by Xian Yanxue. At this moment, a handsome young man appeared. His face was pale as though he had not seen the sun for hundreds of years. He looked sickly as though he was lacking in yang qi and had little vitality left. He was the young master of Broken World Mountain, Wen Yu. Wen Yu, it's been a few decades since we last met, but you still need to be taught a lesson. Xian Yanxue laughed coldly. Her sword was filled with evil qi, and it parted the dark clouds to reveal the 9 heavens. Boom! The others charged toward Yi Qinghan and the others. Yi Qinghan's long saber appeared, and with a sweep of it, he sliced through the bodies of more than 10 people. Their divine bodies exploded, and blood dyed the mountain gate red. Wen Yu was shocked out of his wits. Xian Yanxue's sword pierced through his collarbone, and he was suppressed at the foot of the mountain. Yi Qinghan! How dare you? How dare you enter my Broken World Mountain alone? Wen Yu roared in anger. I have always been bold. Tell me, where is the Wen clan? Yi Qinghan's cold gaze pierced into Wen Yu's eyes, and he was so scared that his mind went blank. Wen Yu didn't dare to say much, and he quickly replied, imprisoned in the frosty snow ridge. Remember, if anyone from the Wen clan dies, you will be buried with them. If anyone is humiliated, you will be humiliated 10,000 times. I'm afraid you will kneel and beg me to kill you. Yi Qinghan shouted. Wen Yu was stunned by Yi Qinghan's ruthless gaze. He had never seen such a cold and emotionless gaze. Thinking about the frosty snow ridge, he could only pray that no one from the Wen clan would die from the cold. He also prayed that the army guarding the frosty snow ridge wouldn't humiliate the women of the Wen clan. Otherwise, he would be in trouble. However, he knew that it was impossible for the army to not take advantage of him. His legs trembled, and he was so scared that he wet himself. Wen Shang's face was ashen, and he took the initiative to lead the way to the frosty snow ridge. That was the northernmost part of the Broken World Mountain, and it was the coldest there. It was common for people to freeze to death. How could the Wen clan withstand the cold with so many children and women? Soon, Yi Qinghan brought Wen Yu to a mountain ridge. The army was stationed at the outer perimeter. The depths of the mountain were covered in snow, and snow was still falling. The mountains and rivers were sealed in snow, and even the guards didn't want to move. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.